Chapter 161, A Demon Lord's Work Isn't a God's. TN Note, big thanks to Lion-san for the draft, and you lot for the detailed editing notes in advance. P.S. Call me a petty teddy, but for those who think I simply copied pasted and edited Lion-san's work, the reason it takes a while for me to release a new chapter is because this whole thing was 100% self-typed. Lion-san's work was used for reference only. Finally, thanks for putting up with my late translation without raising pitchforks. Without further ado, enjoy. 161. A Demon Lord's Work Isn't a God's. Feeling a gentle warmth enveloping him, Calgurio awakened. This place is. Calgurio suddenly couldn't recall what he had been do up till now. A silver-haired shoujo who looked around 10 years, angelic smile on her face seemed to be working on something. Looking around, his fallen comrade whom he was uncertain, but probably Krishna had the girl's hand raised over them, and from her palm a rainbow-colored light embedded into them. After a while, that person who was Krishna after all opened his eyes, and their gaze met. However, he seemed as confused as he was when he had just awakened, and couldn't comprehend the situation. The silver-haired girl didn't notice Calgurio and Krishna waking up, and continued on repeatedly with her work. 100. When she had completed her work on about 100 individuals in the room, satisfied, she nodded her head and faced Calgurio. Yo, you're awake now? How do you feel? Can you recall your name? The girl spoke with a casual tone. However, no discomfort was felt. The shoujo's lovely appearance was one reason, the other being the girl's presence that quenched any rebellious thought against her. The perplexed Calgurio looked at his comrades. Huh? Was it a failure? I was certain the ritual was a perfect success. The shoujo had a troubled expression on her face. Apparently, they were subjected to some sort of ritual, but their bodies didn't feel abnormal. If he must say something, he couldn't seem to muster any strength. After confirming this, suddenly, he recalled they had invaded Tempest and are currently at war. Where's the demon? What happened to that red-haired demon? Have we survived? Shouted Calgurio. With this statement, the others had finally regained their memories, and realized the abnormality of the current situation. Certainly, Calgurio and Co should have been slain by the demon Diablo. Calgurio remembered how all his attacks were in vain, and the demon Diablo with his hands like a sword, pierced and crushed his heart. That was why Calgurio his situation of being alive. Oh, did you remember? Do you remember your name? While nodding in reply. My name is Calgurio. Corps Captain of the Empire Armored Corps, I was entrusted as the supreme command of this operation. Since the contents of said operation is classified, I can't explain about it here, please forgive me. Besides that, are you the one who saved us? He asked, going with the flow. To be able to save them from such a situation, it's impossible unless she wields great power. That demon, or more precisely someone with the strength of the Lord of Demons. TN Note, translates into King of Demons, but since means Demon Lord, so I used Lord instead of King. To be able to save them from such a situations, it could only be the rumored hero and no one else. No. 110. It might be possible if it's the Empire's Royal Guard No. 110, but whether they could do it alone was questionable. Besides, if it was a Royal Guard he would have recognized her, and Calgurio had no reason to keep it as a secret. Someone who he didn't know, she was too strong to be someone unheard of. Operation or whatever, we're the ones who annihilated your army, you know. Since it looks like you misunderstood something, I'll give you an explanation. You're all already dead. Or rather, didn't every soldier in the army died? Maybe some of you may have survived, but let's talk about that later. But since it looks like you perfectly retained your memory, the ritual was a success. Now, let's start again. Nice to meet you, my name is Rimuru, Demon Lord Rimuru. I'm the king of this country, best regards to you lot. Now then, I'll tell you this again, but I'm the one who resurrected you all. As for further details, we'll explain to you bit by bit later. Calgurio, who couldn't comprehend the words spoke, simply gawked. The words reached his brain, their meanings understood. Calgurio widened his eyes to their limits, and stared at the shoujo before him. This shoujo is Rimuru. Someone they thought of as an obstacle, the enemy they must eliminate. A member of the current octagram, Rimuru herself. This Xiaozhou is resurrected, was it? Who? We were. Shock and turmoil, then fear filled his heart. Calgurio wasn't the only one, everyone who was revived had the exact same reaction. It would appear some time is needed until the chaos settles down. Casting a side glance at the confused Calgurio and co., I had exited the test. 100. The 100 individuals, those slain by Diablo, are the Corp's supreme commander and his advisors. So to speak, the ones with the highest authority in this invasion. I had methodically tried out a resurrection method, and the effects were perfect. Of course, this is in order for them to take responsibility. And so, there's a heavy barrier lockdown around the tent, and it is under Sui's surveillance. It's impossible to escape. Well, even if I called it a resurrection, it is only a temporary one. There is no reason for me to return the souls I have taken. They were the one who attacked us, so their death was them reaping what they sown. However, for various reasons I've decided to perform the resurrection ritual. This ritual only grants someone a temporary life. After the incident of Shin's death, Wisdom King Raphael had been smoothly analyzing the soul. The raw materials of the soul jewel taken from Clayman are human souls. 1. In terms of energy, it's equivalent to 10,000 human souls. However, this strength carries with it a time limit, and could burn off strength to provide amplify strength for an instant. 100. In fact, according to Wisdom King Raphael's analyses, 100 human souls could be fused to make a jewel that could increase strength for an instant. Comparing it to its name, it wasn't that great an item. It's probably similar to doping, however I think relying on such a thing would not fare well in the future, so I simply decomposed it into souls. And since we would simply revert the process, the souls were used in research. Not limited to humans, all souls have quality and quantity. Quality aside, the souls of plants and animals contain very little energy. Compared with that, a human's soul contains an immense amount of energy. It was confirmed that everyone would have the same equal amount of energy. And to actually utilize the energy of the souls. This was referred to as soul force. The information engraved onto the soul would become the origin of its powers. Then, does the energy directly engrave the information onto the soul? That's not it. First, there's the ego, wrapped around in the core. This is where all the information is engraved on. And so in conclusion the crystallized energy encases the core and becomes the soul. The possession jewel was developed in order to project the core. TN note, read chapter 119, cheers to Lion-san for remember what it's called. The core has no energy. However the ego does. Without the soul force skills couldn't be activated, but it's possible for the ego to operate. And the possession jewel is used to substitute the soul's energy with magical essence. However, it's undeniable there would be limits due to the difference in the quality of energy. Since in the end it's simply used as a toy in the dungeon, thus there are no problems. In the end what I wanted to say is, even if the skills are engraved onto the core, if there's no soul force it couldn't be used, that's about it. This time, the possession jewel is used to resurrect Calgurio. The soul was reaped, the core taken out, and moved into the jewel. Making the jewel was simple, it requires less than 1% of the soul force's energy. In actuality, I don't really lose anything, just a bit of labor cost. Regenerating the flesh of the dead with magic, then embedding the jewel into them. And finally transferring the core. It sounds simple, but without Wisdom King Raphael's overwhelming calculation abilities this task couldn't possibly be undertaken. Specifying an individual alone is already a difficult task, but to also match their genetic code to the soul data, and identify that individual instantly, it was so well done I should call Raphael Sensei instead. With this method, it was possible to restore the flesh, and after using the jewel the resurrection would be a success. However, that doesn't mean this method is flawless. Firstly, the individual is weakened greatly. Naturally, it's because I've snatched the entirety of their soul force. It would be impossible to use skills from now on, and if they're unlucky their magic usage would also be affected. However, since any physical training results or experience is still retained, so as long as they aren't dependent on their skills it would not be a problem. Then, the second problem. Something I can't do anything about. If their corpse isn't around anymore, they couldn't be resurrected. It's to be expected. I'm not an omnipotent god. Without a physical record, it's impossible to create something for the soul data out of nothing without anything to base on. There are also cases of them being put into dolls, but is it worth the cost? To begin with, I don't have a sufficient amount of dolls, I don't any obligation to do so, nor do I see any benefits in doing so. Unfortunately, they can only blame their bad luck and give up. Even if only a portion of their flesh remained, it's still possible to reconstruct it with magic. The reason resurrection magic couldn't be used is because their soul couldn't be reproduced. Even so, there are those whose didn't have any remains at all. There are those who were perfectly commusted by Ultima's nuclear flame, and those whose genetic code was completely destroyed by Testarosa's death strike. And then, there are those whose soul simply accepted death due to fear and despair. Against these, I who have means of spiritual healing could do nothing about. 20. In the end, those who cannot be resurrected, number over 200,000. 9420. Of the 940,000 individuals, 200,000 died. However, they were supposed to be completely annihilated, so when you compare the numbers you could say they were lucky to have so few deaths. In truth, I thought that Testa had truly went overboard, but I haven't gave any instructions to avoid damaging their flesh. The reason is a simple one. If they were overly focused on this and end up getting injured for that, then it would be meaningless. To me my retainers are what's most important. Comparing them to some unrelated stranger, I would choose to protect my retainers without hesitation. Above all, to do something like having a compassionate heart towards invading enemy soldiers, I don't want to be a virtuous saint with a field of flowers for brains. TN note, probably meaning being nice to everyone, like those protagonists in crappy anime, I meant anime. And so, even though there are some that couldn't be resurrected, that's besides the point. That's probably not it, but, since I still retained the sensitiveness of someone in a peaceful country like Japan, I held an unspeakable feeling in regards to someone's death. I simply aren't used to saying I did nothing wrong yet. I think praying to the souls of the deceased would be simple hypocrisy. Even so, from now on and unto the future I will not forgive anyone who dares invade my territory, and have them experience complete fear. After performing the ritual on Calgurio and Co., the effects are confirmed. Confirming that no problems are present, a wide-scale casting was planned. 70. In an open area around the vicinity of the dungeon are about 700,000 corpses laid side by side. After the war had ended, Gerudo had recovered them. The victims of the first battle has also been transferred and recovered. The bodies laid down here are all victims of this battle. Wide-scale ritual, sacred birthday activate. Calgurio and Co., who were previously questioned, looked out the tent and widened their eyes in shock. He looked as if he had been constantly widening his eyes. TN note, not entirely sure what the author meant. I guess he/she meant Calgurio and Co. looked as if their eyes had been continuously widened without rest due to how frequently they do so. Well, that's not something I would know about. I'm just trying to end this quickly. All of the bodies already had a replicated possession jewel embedded into them. As for the recovery of the corpses, thanks to Adalman using holy magic at full throttle, they were restored to a perfect state. Recently, due to everyone playing an active role, they were unfortunately lacking sleep. As for the undead type Adalman, he has no sleep. Thanks to that, he had finished embedding the possession jewel into each and every perfectly recovered corpse. Following up, what was performed isn't the Soul Recall Arcane, but rather Soul Grant Arcane. TN note, gave up after 5 minutes on the dictionary. So big shout out to Alf Hassan who worked with Lion San. Unlike the restoration of the soul, the energy consumption isn't as high. There's a high amount of calculation required for each individual, but the one doing it is Wisdom King Raphael. I leave everything to you, Raphael Sensei. If it were me I wouldn't be able to do it, it's some strange complicated ritual after all. But, to Calgurio and Co. and were looking at me, it would probably appear as if I handled it by my lonesome. Before I noticed they started prostrating, began forming some gesture as if they were worshipping something. Wait a sec, If you start doing this, I'm going to feel uncomfortable, you know? However, I didn't voice out my complaints until the ritual ended. 7-0. And so with that uncomfortable feel, for 1 day and 1 night, I've performed the arcane soul grant onto about 700,000 people. On the next day, meals were served to the resurrected. There was a mass panic right after the resurrection. That's not exactly it, but it wasn't far from it. TN note, it was kinda confusing to interpret this one. Vegetables and meat were braised in a big pot. It was a stew that had a unique taste. Ingredients were piled up like a mountain. It was amiable. After the chaos had settled, the soldiers who had recognized reality had received a bowl of soup that filled them with an hard-to-describe warmth and moved their hearts. The tension in the air had dissipated, and they had forgotten the hunger of their stomachs. They had already been killed once by the subordinates of the Demon Lord. They had confirmed and understood this. However, they are now alive. The Demon Lord had called it a temporary life. Feel at ease. If you wish to lead a normal life, you would feel no inconvenience. You could fall in love and start a family, even have kids. However, taking any actions that would be a demerit to Tempest would be restricted. A curse has been cast into the jewel, preventing them from ever taking hostile actions ever again. They've seemed to have acknowledged this. After everyone has resurrected, and the chaos had subsided, I've informed them of this. However, such a curse is probably unneeded. Calgurio looked convinced. TN note, of course it's unneeded. They're practically worshipping you now, you silver-haired lowly god. Nobody would want to take such foolhardy actions twice. When Feldera caused a great disaster several hundred years ago, the results were fear being spread around. But, with a whole city razed, and every resident annihilated, it's compared to a calamity that man could possibly manipulate. And so what about it? There were horrifying tales, but nobody ever doubted their chances of defeat. Alternatively, if there were a large number of survivors, the rumors of how this land could never be invaded would spread even further. In that regard, it would definitely happen this time. That is because they have been revived after experiencing death once. Not in the hands of God, but a demon lord. The foolish them had the feeling they had experienced a growth. No, to begin with, was she really a demon lord? Calgurio couldn't help but pondered over this question. Overnight, Krishna and the others had changed their target of worship to the demon lord. Since he was the one who started worshipping the demon lord first, so he can't really complain about it. The demon lord said a temporary life, but in reality, there aren't any problems. True, since abilities could no longer be used, and using magic has become laborious. However, his well-trained body still responded to his will. Their bodies would age, they would soon meet their end, they were allowed to live. Everyone was so thankful and in awe, no one held any hostility towards the demon lord Rimuru. However, there's another problem. Should they return to the Empire, the opinions were split. There were some that said they should return once first. There were also some that said they should simply relocate to Tempest. This has led to clashing opinions. The underlying reason for both sides were understandable. Those with families in the Empire would naturally opt to return. However, if they simply returned irresponsibly, they would invoke the Demon Lord's displeasure. Since they had received mercy, they should comply to the Demon Lord's demands. Right when Calgurio wondered what to do, he received a call from the Demon Lord. When he was called, he saw several advisors alongside the Demon Lord. Calgurio presented an humble attitude. Do relax yourself. I've came to consult about something with you today. Saying such, the Demon Lord Rimuru, the lovely Xiaozhou, had made an evil smile. To conclude the talk, the Demon Lord's orders were she couldn't allow their return just yet. There were conditions attached to this, of course. Currently, the Empire and Tempest were at war. Since the war hasn't ceased, acts of battle would still continue. Since they didn't write any wartime treaties, the concept of prisoners of war didn't exist. Since the Demon Lord was the one who resurrected them, they didn't think of rebelling. Let alone that, the war is currently ongoing. Under these circumstances, they couldn't release them. Calgurio was pretty convinced about this. Even if Calgurio and co couldn't directly attack the Demon Lord, they could still possibly be mobilized as backline supports. And so, until the war has ended, they are ordered to live in Tempest. I then told them this. 3070. The food doesn't come for free. We could cover meals for 300,000 people, but if it's 700,000 we're going to need to import from other countries. And so, pay for your food bills with labor. And that's how it is. As one can see, this was reasonable. General Gerudo was introduced, and under his supervision they would begin constructions. 30. The plan is for them to build an industrial city that could house over 300,000 residents. Since mining for iron ores and such and then transporting it to the capital is inefficient, we're ordered them to build a city at the foot of the mine. The honest, straightforward General Gerudo easily accepted. If anything, if anyone wants to live here after the war, then you better work hard on the town. You all seem greedy, that's just what I need. Why don't you mass-produce cars in the industrial city, focus on functionality and development and make a lot of profit? Looking at the smiling demon lord, Calgurio realized he had no right to decline. He couldn't quite understand what was said to him, but he understood she held expectations for him. His heart felt elevated, but also slightly puzzled. He wasn't dissatisfied, however this meeting wasn't something thought of on a whim, it was a mysterious feeling of watching monsters obey by their own free will. Build a town. Following this order, the laying of rails began. Gerudo Showing was smiling at the great timing since he was just short on manpower. Since he had led a corps and thus was proficient at assigning roles, it could be simplified as such. What's with this country? This came to mind for a second, however since this was something disrespectful to the demon lord so he hastily cast aside his thoughts. Soon, Calgurio would be worked so hard he had no time to think of complaints, although it would appear the person in question hasn't realized this yet. Just as Calgurio had left, Diablo had entered. Preparations are proceeding as planned, my master. A nod was returned to Diablo's words. Once it witnessed the total annihilation of the Empire's forces, a frightened mouse scampered back. And so, the Empire's armies are completely razed in every sense of the word would be the thought. Krishna had came and confessed that the Emperor had tried to contact him with an emergency line, and I left it to Diablo. The corpse of the woman called Miranda wasn't discovered, no doubt she's the mouse, Yuuki's spy. It's likely she's one of Cerberus's head. It's also likely that Calgurio didn't realize Miranda's thought guidance. Using tricks like that of a fraudster, she simulated his avarice nature. It would seem Calgurio himself wasn't even aware that Miranda had probably foresaw Calgurio's defeat and escaped. And Diablo, who was in charge of surveillance, had oversaw this. And at the outskirts, there is Sui, who is responsible for surveillance there, so in the end there's no escape. She was probably trying to report intelligence to the Emperor and Yuuki, and thus had escaped. If this information could bring about peace, then that would be great. However, if they continue this war, we would crush them completely. Especially Yuuki, if he escapes then things are going to get messy. If we will reconcile with the Empire, then we're definitely demanding custody of Yuuki. The war's still ongoing. And let's hit them as hard as we can while we still can. This defensive war is our complete victory. We've managed to convince Calgurio with a plausible explanation like food expenses and threatened him a bit. The actual damage we've taken is minimal. Thanks to the large amount of recovery potion pasted, certainly there are only memories of pain. Other damages include a part of the forest being logged. But we're managed to attain 1 God class equipment, and 3 sets of legendary class equipment. 9-4. Not to mention the souls of 940,000 individuals I now have. As said previously, it's our complete victory. I'm still thinking about which one of my subordinates to evolve, but I plan to announce it in a near future announcement as a reward. Of course, only among my retainers. The war isn't over yet. 300. I had already confirmed that there is an airship platoon of 300 vessels headed here from the sea. We can't be careless here. We shouldn't be excessively happy about a single victory, but rewards and punishments are still necessary. Even though I don't think their loyalty to me would waver even after awakening as a demon lord, nevertheless I would want to experiment this. After that we'll head off to crush their air forces above the seas. Next time, it's our turn. And so, after Tempest has successfully repelled the Empire's invasion, their counter-attack begins. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Intermission Shinji's situation. A thumbs up and a thanks to the nameless translator of the linked paste bin, and enjoy. Intermission Shinji's situation. Claiming they would be introduced to the ruler of this dungeon, Gadra-rashi, alongside Shinji and Co are currently following the slime before them. TN note, /Rashi means teacher/instructor, but it's a tier above /sensei. From the looks of it, this dungeon would be their workplace from now on. Since you've been accepted into this country, we can't simply serve you free meals. Or so Shinji and Co were told. Its body jiggled with a *pion without making a sound as it slid along the floor, giving it an elegant air. Maybe it's just their imagination, however, compared to the other slimes that are not only the weakest of monsters that get eliminated without much of a thought, this one had a different air around it. After all, this slime was the king of the country that accepted them after their exile, the demon lord Rimuru. Looking at it, one would feel they might be able to one-shot it with a surprise attack, but they shouldn't get careless. After all, the demon servant next to the demon lord, he had a strange presence emanating from him. That demon introduced himself as Diablo. Shinji and Co didn't understand why, but when Gadra-rashi first saw Diablo his eyes widened. This level, it couldn't be, even the demon dukes, demon lord, joined in as her subordinates too. TN note, unless otherwise stated, from now on I'm going to use her for Rimuru too, long live the idol of Tempest. He was speechless. It's probably a very powerful monster. The details were told later, but apparently it was an existence that could even subdue archdemons, and bring forth pandemonium. During the Crimson-Dyed Lake incident, the platoon Shinji and Co belonged to were nearly annihilated by a lone archdemon. Pondering about the meaning of those words paled his face. In any case, they've got to take extreme care and made sure they never anger Demon Lord Rimuru. They nodded to each other in agreement. And so, guided by Diablo, they had a walk in the dungeon. They were brought into a room, and someone was there. Yahoo! I am Ramirez. Are you guys the new assistants? TN note, Yahoo as in how energetic anime girls would sometimes greet, not me Misty Ping Yahoo. The one flying around before them is a little fairy. 30 cm. Probably about 30 centimeters tall. She looked like a cute little girl. Oh. Wow. Is this a real fairy? Mark was like, oh. Fantastic. And was shouting out in surprise and excitement. I understand how he feels. However, after that the fairy seems to have gotten carried away from our reaction. Phew, fun. You guys seem promising. Alright, you get a pass. However, you guys will have to work hard and follow my every absolute orders. Said the hoity-toity fairy, Pipsqueak, whilst puffing out her non-existent breast. It seems Shinji has interpreted this as a child who wants to play. This dungeon truly is Makyo, he thought. TN note, could mean a demonic/fantasy land, or simply a terrifying place. After all, there is the immortal King Adalman and his knight Holy Knight Alberto and other strong individuals dwelling here, and then there are childlike fairies playing around innocently. He wasn't certain about doing as this child had told him to, above all they would soon be owing a favor to the ruler of the dungeon. Mark seemed pretty happy. Unfortunately we can't possibly play with her. The ruler of the dungeon is probably someone like the immortal King Adalman. After all, it's an old friend of Gadra-rashi, so there's no mistake. So Shinji thought. However, he had the feeling that the name Ramirez sounded familiar. Oh well, Shinji thought and was about to decline the offer. Unfortunately, we're here to meet the ruler of the dungeon, and work under them. We really want to play with you, but since we have work. When Shinji was about to continue, suddenly Gadra-rashi knocked him on the head and stopped his words. Shinji didn't understand what he did wrong. Ignoring Shinji. My, why isn't this Ramirez-sama? My name is Gadra. It's truly an honor to meet you. Is he alright over there? Ha, of course. This weak fellow here has underwent training, so there's no problem. And so Ramirez and Gadra continued their conversation. And finally, Shinji remembered that Ramirez was the name of a demon lord. Mark and Scene, they too remembered after looking at Gadra and Shinji's exchange, and stood up straight ridigly. Towards the three who were nervously chattering. Ah, did you guys knew without having me introducing? This is Ramaris. She is your superior. If you looked down on her just because she's small, you're going to get punished by the secretary, so watch out. Saying so, Rimuru pointed towards the person behind Ramaris who appeared without anyone realizing. That person's Beretta, Ramaris's secretary and bodyguard. Looking at the doll-like masked individual. What in the? Gadra said, and groaned. Apparently, Shinji and Ko had realized the reason why Gadra had groaned. That masked figure is probably no ordinary individual. This place that was also a demon lord's dwelling, it truly is a Makyo where no humans lived. The first job for Shinji and Ko, are to monitor those who had invaded the dungeon in a room, simply that. And those attacking are their former comrades, the soldiers of the Empire's army. They were mostly strangers, but there are a few acquaintances in the mix. It didn't feel pleasant, but those are the orders. They thought, and continued their monitoring work. On the first day, the Empire's forces advanced smoothly. However, he had question. The structure looked totally different from when Shinji and Ko first entered the dungeon. When he asked about it. 100. Of course it is. After all, the dungeon's composed of 100 components, I can easily move them around. Demon Lord Ramaris gave him an innocent reply. That fairy was also in the same room with him, watching the projection on the large screen alongside him. There weren't any surprises, Ramaris was as friendly and open-hearted as she looked. Feeling great, the tension quickly dissipated. It seems like Demon Lord Rimuru was also quite the open-hearted person, but Shinji and Ko were hesitant about establishing conversation. On the other hand, it was easy to talk to Ramaris since she's the one who initiates them. It seems that Demon Lord Rimuru is currently in the control room, and not staying here. However, next to Ramaris was a mysterious handsome figure. He looked uninterested about our work and was reading a book. Where did he get it? For it was a manga that Shinji had read too, but how should he join in, or rather should he even join in at all? He had a hard time deciding, so in the end Shinji didn't call out to him. If he could borrow it, he would probably be filled with a nostalgic feeling, but if he wanted to borrow it, he's going to have to greet him first. And so the day passed with him thinking about what to do. 3. By the way, before he began work they were briefed, their monthly wage was 3 gold coins. 3-6. Their yearly wage would total to 36 gold coins, and there also seemed to be bonuses as well. From these facts alone it wouldn't feel like much. 7050. When they were working in the Empire, Shinji would naturally earn about 70 gold coins annually, even when compared to Mark and Scene who earn 50 gold coins a year. This was a big salary reduction. Their salaries were reduced by half, but they weren't unsatisfied. The first year's a wait-and-see situation, and they would have a raise based on their performance. Above all, they also take care of food, clothing, and shelter like the Empire, and prices here are cheap. They were supplied with working clothes, and also a place to rest. To their delight, their private rooms also comes with a bathroom, and a toilet. They couldn't believe it when it was even the flushing kind. It was like a big leap from the Middle Ages to a modern one-room condominium. In the Empire, there weren't individual rooms with toilets even in the capital. 10. If they wanted a room with its own bathroom and toilet, it's 10 gold coins a night, in one of those super high-end hotels. In addition, the toilets were the scooping type. TN note, aka, the capital's toilets are basically glorified buckets in a hole. Fun fact, if you ever visited an old village in Japan and encountered one of these toilets, watch out for the vegetables you eat. You just might have a little extra seasoning in there. They could use magic to perfectly sterilize the smell, but it could never be compared with flush toilets. Perhaps it's because of the extremely wonderful treatment. Shinji and Ko were so moved their monetary issues were but a trivial matter. As for Gadra, to him this was all an unimaginable convenience, hence he was at a loss for words. 6006:30. And then, their work times are decided. They would wake up 6 o'clock in the morning to pick up Ramaris. At 6:30 they would have breakfast at an elven restaurant. They could also enjoy a free lunch by attending to Ramaris. 1500. Finally, job ends at 1500 hours in the evening. 1-8. Because shops are only open until 1800 hours in the evening, hence they accepted the explanation behind their work done time. 9-1. Even thought it's 9 hours of work, they have an hour's worth of rest. Furthermore, considering the fact they could also have a bit of communication with the adventures led Shinji and Ko to figure out something. This workplace had very wonderful treatment. Oh, a side note, for dinner they could eat where they wanted. The bangles they have on them allows them to freely move about in the dungeon, and by presenting the bangles they could eat free of charge in the dungeon's inn. However, they still need to pay in the Elven restaurant. 1-3. It was 1 gold coin per meal, even when taking into considering that prices increase at night. Even the cheapest meals cost 3 silver coins. Even thought it's on par with some super luxury hotel, the taste is worth it. Even thought breakfast and lunch were guaranteed, if they splurged carelessly they could run out. Because it was free when they accompanied Ramaris, when they tried going there again at night they had quite the shock. That night, they reluctantly ordered the cheapest food on the menu, and left the store as if they were fleeing. But, meals are available not only inside the dungeon. Outside of the dungeon were a myriad of adventurer-managed restaurants. There were also yakiniku restaurants and taverns. Naturally, the taverns and meals inside the dungeon were free of charge, but there was a greater variety outside. TN note, yakiniku are restaurants where you have a hot grill in the middle of the table, and you would order platters of raw ingredients to grill. It's basically indoors Japanese barbecue. It's delicious. Since there's also a kitchen in the room, cooking for themselves is also an option. With this feeling they gradually got accustomed to their workplace, but that's a story for later. Day 2 of the dungeon invasion by the Empire's army. As if the uninterested attitude on the previous day was but a lie, today the handsome figure watched the screen with great interest. After asking, apparently that was the evil dragon Feldera in human form. They were astonished, but that was only the first of many shocks they'll receive that day. That was the day they would get the most astonishments in one day, and in their lives. 2. After 2 hours, Gadra could only moan with his eyes closed, whereas the trio of were thankful for their good luck. The ones thought of as the dungeon's strongest aren't just Adalman and Alberto, they are now very well aware there are also other overwhelmingly strong individuals. The job given to Shinji and Ko is to seek out other worlders with a wealth of knowledge. They are also to examine the state of battle, and look into the nature of those people. Hence, they observed the battles of every stratum, and were stupefied by the absurdity. Na. It was as I have said, it was the right choice coming here. They heard Gadra Rashi's voice from the distance, and the trio could only nod in reply. 505160. Everything up to 50th stratum was only the surface, stratum 5160 was where it truly began. Thinking back how foolish they were back then, they would have laughed so hard they would shed tears. But they couldn't laugh at all that came out was a dry laugh. It was as Gadra said, if they didn't escape with him they would have probably been dragged back in to act as a guide. They shuddered at the thought. Shinji and Ko, with all their heart, thanked Gadra Rashi for his foresight. Alberto, whom they thought of as overwhelmingly strong, was defeated. No. 17. The Emperor's Royal Guard number 17, Krishna, defeated him. The reason for his defeat was his sword breaking. In reality, in terms of swordsmanship Alberto had the advantage, however his sword was blocked by Krishna's legendary ranked armor and snapped. It seems like Adalman wasn't proficient in close combat, and the defeat of his vanguard Alberto dealt him a crushing blow. The collapse of their combination had led to defeat. Gadra seemed displeased. He's all bones now, and he's still so naive. He looked as if he regretting his past mistakes. However, they were on a completely different dimension from Shinji and Ko, so they didn't voice out their own opinions. Shinji and Ko didn't realize it themselves, however they were really lucky to have the chance to witness the battle between the strong. In the future, when they are going to fight similarly strong individuals, this would become invaluable experience. But today, they watched on without any realization. 3-5. In the end, it became the total annihilation of the Empire's 350,000 soldiers. Even the strong ones like the Empire's Royal Guard Krishna was no match against the Majin Zijin. The moment when Krishna lost, Shinji and Ko were so shocked they ran out of strength to react. If there's enough time, encore. That was their state of mind. However, they once again remembered their job, and decided to recommend Raymond and Michel, whom they were acquaintances with. They were really lucky to have survived up until the end, and above all Ramirez was really pleased they decided to break the fake bracelet. And so, their first task of seeking out new otherworlder assistants had ended without any problems. After that, Gadra Rashi had went ahead to rekindle his old friendship, and soon he grew accustomed to his dungeon management job. Soon he was acknowledged as one of the best 10 of the dungeon, and was playing an active role as one of the bosses. Shinaji, Mark, Sean, Michel, and Raymond, the 5 of them became Ramirez's assistant and assisted her in a variety of projects. However, it was quite hard to distinguish it from play. It was as if they had started a new department for fun. Because the research occasionally produced rather formidable results, those around them didn't even notice they were mostly playing around. But, what's going to happen to our lives now? I don't really know, Shinji said. However, when our luck hit rock bottom, our lives really took a 180-degree turnaround, was probably their thought. Side note. Since Guro-san hasn't caught on yet, as promised I'll go back and work on 158 after this. There's also going to be a minor announcement about my future translation schedule then, stay tuned, smiley face. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 162, Reward and Evolution Part 1. Basically, this is Gato-san's and Alpha-san's translation. All I did was clear up sentences here and there I felt was a little rough, corrected a few things, and added in the small details left out by Gato-san. On a side note, Guro-san seems to be busy somewhere, but ATM the Circus Bear and the Lion has agreed on a collab, yay? 1621. Chapter 162 Reward and Evolution Part 1. 70. It's now the second day after I revived the 700,000 soldiers of the Empire's forces. Since there wasn't sufficient space in the Grand Hall of Tempest, I gathered my subordinates in the battle arena to test out the evolution ritual. This will also serve as the rewards for repelling the Empire's armies. It's also a victory celebration of sorts. Actually, since the war hasn't ceased yet, we shouldn't let down our guards, but it'll be an exception this time. This is also for the sake of improving soldier morale. The 10 lords of the labyrinth also made their formal appearances, and the battle arena's jam-packed with soldiers. Oh, for confidentiality, the human volunteers, the adventurers weren't invited. The city around the dungeon, the fact it's now named Labyrinth Guard, hasn't been conveyed into the inside of the dungeon yet. This is in consideration of the fact we may face surprise attacks during a war. It's for the sake of caution. The barrier stones haven't been implemented into the surroundings of Labyrinth Guard. Once the war is over, I plan to perform a defensive ritual targeting wide-scale attack spells. Due to present situations, there isn't enough time to implement any defenses, but it can't be helped. Although the dungeon can't be explored at the moment, food ingredients can still be traded. Other than the adventurers, business is going as usual. The volunteer soldiers have returned to Labyrinth Guard, currently on standby in their own homes. Only a section of individuals such as Masayuki and Arno were allowed to participate as representatives. Anyways, rewards and commendations were given. Incidentally, I also experimented on the Demon Lord Ascension. TN note, for those who don't remember, was dubbed Demon Lord Ascension all the way back at Chapter 71. 2-3. My evolution took 2-3 days. My level of activity has dropped due to the effects of Harvest Festival, however at the moment the Empire's armies aren't here. TN note, Harvest Festival is the term used by the author to describe the evolution of a monster into a demon lord, probably because they harvested a load of souls for this. 3-2. It would seem the airship corps would take 3 days to fly around the back of the Holy Empire Rubarian's territory, but after adjusting their advancement speed, they would hit open seas in 2 days. 1. When flying near supersonic speeds, they could reduce travel time by 1 day. However, magic consumption was immense, and they could only maintain their top speed for a short amount of time. In this world, the ability to move at supersonic speeds is quite a threat, so I think a short amount of time is enough. 400 km. In any case, since the average speed for an airship is about 400 kilometers per hour, when compared to a ship or a train this is pretty fast. That's why, you can say this is good timing. It was an overwhelming victory this time, but the possibilities of a strong adversary lurking in the midst of the enemies still exist. If Yuuki appeared, among all of my executives the only ones who could deal with him would probably be either Diablo or Benimaru. If they messed up badly, there would be the risk of being dominated effect due to the information overriding over the soul, resulting in the possibility of having a subordinate. Regarding the information overwrite on the soul, Wisdom King Raphael seemed to provide protection against it. However, I think it's probably only a temporary effect. I think it's possible to set up a perfect defense against it if I directly saw Yuuki's ability, but at the moment this is only a conjecture, so overconfidence is very dangerous. The improvement of overall abilities through the Demon Lord Ascension will serve as insurance for those oh shit moments. TN note, well, Ra says emergencies, but who cares, love Gato-san's interpretation better. Perchance, even if my subordinates were still defeated after they ascended and their souls were rewritten, it's still possible for them to stall for time. The plan is to contact me in the event of a chance encounter, commence a pincer attack with me and finish him off. According to Wisdom King Raphael's prediction there would be no problems in resisting the rewrite, even so I still want to be extremely cautious though. TN, this whole paragraph, kill me, please. Naturally, Benimaru was the first to be nominated. As Supreme Commander of the army, he commanded the troops wonderfully. There was a situation where a demon went wild and wrecked everything, but that's not a problem. You could probably even call it a job well done. Alright then, Benimaru. Do you know as of today you might even become a demon lord? What are you saying, Rimuru-sama? Shana is currently giving a speech to all the soldiers with words of appreciation for this battle. TN, and for some reason, literally just cuts off from their conversation into the actions of the other executives. Why are you so confusing? With my words as the introduction, she read a script out loud. Naturally it wasn't me who came up with the manuscript. It was Shana, but let's not mind the small details. TN, Rimuru turning into a politician with his speeches being written for him? Wait, what, did I translate this correctly? TN note, loads of politicians do that. You translated it correctly. Recently, techniques relating to fabrics and sewing have been completely passed down. Shana herself has been allocating her time for her hobbies. Even so, she spends a lot of her time as my secretary. At the moment Shin was listed as my chief bodyguard as well as my chief secretary but is currently busy training her subordinates. Thus recently it was mainly Shana who was handling the work of being my secretary. That's why, while Shana was giving a speech the conversation between Benimaru and I continued. Well, we acquired some souls didn't we? It seems it's possible to ascend to a demon lord using them. Why haven't I heard about this? Oh? Didn't I just explain about it? I and Benimaru locked eyes. I wonder was it distasteful for me to not tell him beforehand? No, I'm pretty positive I've already told him I would be granting him new powers. For the moment, I did say I'll bestow power to you. No, wouldn't one usually think it would be some kind of weapon? Mew, if you say so it might be but you know, there wouldn't be much change right? There will be. We once again locked eyes with each other, the stare was broken this time by Benimaru's sigh as he gave up. He seems to have decided to prepare himself. You may have resigned yourself to this, but I'm sure there won't be any significant differences. It's not just me, right? What are you thinking? Good question. 10. In my case, my magic essence and my magic increased tenfolds, and everyone soul linked to me was bestowed a blessing. It's unknown how it will turn out this time, but it's certain that he will drastically increase in power. But, this guy was stronger than I was before I ascended. If he underwent the same evolution wouldn't he be stronger than I am now? To be honest I feel a sense of anxiety. Basically, I don't think my follower will betray me, but the possibility of them unable to control their powers and go berserk couldn't be denied. Although Feldera is nearby, someone of my level going berserk or rather an unreasonable level would be a serious matter. Hence I'll start off with performing the evolution ritual on only one individual to make an absolute confirmation. I explained the circumstances to Benimaru and he seemed to have understood. And, he boasted he would definitely not go berserk. What a reliable thing to say. As Shana's speech ended, I quickly tried to reward him. You have done well in this battle. You will be known as Wrathful King, Flare Lord, from today on. TN, changed from angry to rageful. TN note, changed from rageful to wrathful, I felt the latter had more impact. Haha. I am thankful for this blessing. The ceremony was performed. He was usually friendly, but as expected before his soldiers he was their supreme commander. Benimaru has perfectly differentiated between public and private. Wrathful, it meant extreme anger. Benimaru was usually impatient, but now he could calmly control his anger. His nature is like that of a raging fire. As one of the demon lords who serve me, there is no better name than this. TN, $10 on someone finding a better name than him. TN note, actually means Demon King. I don't even know why we call them Demon Lords in English instead, but in the raw it fits pretty well. So, would this be a second name, or a rank? TN, beats me, you already have a storyline that's more complicated than Legend of Zelda. 10. Yes/no. Announcement. Using fixed quantity soul, 100,000, will you evolve individual name, Benimaru yes/no? Yes. Yes. 10. When I had commemorated him, I have also simultaneously sent 100,000 souls from the Corridor of Souls to Benimaru. Once the souls were awarded, Benimaru's evolution had not begun. There was no change. Did it fail? There seems to be another condition. This problem seemed to be on my end. I heard the voice of the world. It seems, procreation becomes impossible after evolving from an ogre to a demon lord. Because the concept of lifespan would disappear, the ability to make a child does not seem necessary. Regretfully, until I complete my job as the leader of my species, I cannot complete the evolution. In other words, you wouldn't evolve unless you bear kin. TN, okay. TN note, big THX to Lion San for the pun idea XD, in all honesty thought, he alongside his kin are the last ogres, so it's justified. Mew, that's how it is. Benimaru and I locked eyes again. There were a lot of stare-downs today, but my gaze was overwhelmingly stronger. TN, why did I translate this? Feeling uncomfortable, Benimaru's eyes started to sway. TN, Lemmy, go grab a chair and some rope. Okay, I'll be quiet now. You better be resolute, Benimaru. TN, why, how did this happen? Okay, for real this time, I'll be quiet. I whispered silently. Momiji, come forth. I hereby recognize the binding of souls between you and Benimaru. I declared with a loud voice. Benimaru looked down with his bright red face, however, a smile is engraved onto his mouth. You look pretty happy. Although he seemed like a hardliner, he was a pure man at heart. I didn't dislike this, but if I left him alone, he'll end up single till the end. Well, I am in no position to judge others about such things though. TN, what, because you're forever a virgin? TN note, does he even have a virginity to begin with? Shana looking surprised had widened her, but it seems she intends to bless her older brother. The arena echoed with blessings and outcries of Jeloso, Benimaru, and Momiji received congratulatory words. Well, it is only an announcement now, but after the ascension ceremony that was our victory celebration in name ended, I'm going to have to host Benimaru's marriage. Benimaru and Momiji seemed happy. After I told them to come off the stage, I ordered Shana to prepare. Momiji bowed down joyfully to me and left clinging to Benimaru. The cheers did not stop sounding for a while. Once I raised my hand, the cheers finally silenced. When there isn't time later on, I'd like to bless them just as it is, but for now this ceremony takes priority. It was an unexpected incident, but I had time to spare, so we continued our progress. Consequently, it was Gobuta. Gobuta went up onto the platform. For you, no reward. So it was declared. That's terrible, Tsu. Then why did you call me up here? That's a good question. There is no reward for you, but instead I'm going to bestow you a right. A right, Tsu. Gobuta was confused, unable to fully understand the meaning of my words. He had a confused expression on his face. Does he have no confidence in the words right? I look at Gobuta's confused expression with a broad grin. You are given the right to converse in a casual tone with me. TN note, basically Rimuru is telling Gobuta he can talk casually with the King of Tempest as he would with his pals, which he already does to be honest. So I declared. With these words, an even louder outcry of jealousy even greater than the previous one towards Benimaru was aimed towards Gobuta. TN note, Rimuru is still best waifu, they get more jealous of someone talking to her casually than someone marrying Momiji. Even Shin and Shina were staring at Gobuta with scary gazes. They seemed to be jealous. Or rather, I usually told them they could converse with me in a casual tone, but they looked like they were having difficulties. Meanwhile, there were plenty of complaints given to Gobuta for being given the right to talk casually. Because it was troublesome, I decided to recognize it as a right. After all, this tone is something like a dialect, it doesn't mean they're being disrespect to me. It's clear when I looked into his eyes. Gobuta had eyes that didn't even mind death for my sake. Fundamentally, you wouldn't give medals of honor or money to a general class, they wouldn't need it. Giving a territory would probably also be meaningless since they can't govern it anyways. As for weapons and armor, since he had Ranga as well as their union skill it also wasn't necessary, so I was troubled in finding the proper reward. Well, honor and authority were options, a system of formality wasn't necessary for us monsters though. I just do what I want to do. Gobuta seemed joyful. Thank you very much Tsu. Alfarabi, this can also be translated as Ozatsu, arigato gozaimasu, courtesy to the mysterious lion mask for this line. 90. Afterwards, he bowed to me in a 90-degree angle and waited in line. It's delightful not having to deal with the formalities. He was probably also trying to fix his tone. However, it didn't seem to work. That seemed to be the best reward for Gobuta, for that I too am happy. Finding the appropriate reward was truly difficult. By the way, speaking of Gobuta, Ranga is next. As I called for him, he silently emerged from my shadow. Ranga, you've been a great help to Gobuta. I give you my thanks. Well, from today on, you may call yourself Star Wolf Lord, Star Lord. Ranga gave a bellowing roar, and accepted it. And then I began the ascension ritual. Unlike Benimaru, Ranga immediately began evolving. Like what happened to me, the harvest festival has begun. Ranga immediately went back into my shadow and fell asleep. Perhaps, his Star Wolf subordinates will also receive a blessing gift from him. Whatever happens to him after his evolution is sure to be great. Ranga running out of control didn't seem like it was something that we needed to worry about. Safely back in my shadow, Ranga went back to sleep. I called forth Gable. 3. With the 3rd Army Air Corps, he performed an excellent aerial dogfight. When I gave him my words of appreciation, Gable meekly. There's still a lot to improve upon. People were injured by my command. I still have a lot to improve upon. For the sake of using Dragon Warriorization freely, we're willing to put in the effort. He answered so. He seems to be determined. I felt nostalgic. I remembered the time when he got defeated by one of Ranga's subordinates when going with the flow. His tendencies to get cocky has settled down, he has become an experienced general who can perceive his surroundings. Through experiencing defeat and communicating with Bester and Co., his original prudent quality has surfaced. He's an existence that can be relied on now. I will grant you power. You have managed the army wonderfully, Heavenly Dragon King, Dragon Lord, awaken and show me your powers. The souls were given and the ascension has begun. The evolution of Gable was dramatic. His scales turned from blackish purple to reddish purple, magic essence energy wrapped around his body as if he was burning. However, with the same conviction he used to control Dragon Warriorization, he didn't went berserk. Gable endured the evolution wonderfully. From today onwards, I will be known as Heavenly Dragon Lord. For that, I will master this level of strength. Purple electricity discharged about. Gable's body appeared as if it was burned by energy. It seemed to have succeeded. Ranga went into my shadow and fell asleep immediately, but in his place I got to see Gable's successful evolution. 1005. As for the blessing gift from Gable, 100, Hiryu as well as the 5 individuals of Sukha and Co. TN, there's a 5 of something translates to Soka in Romanji. I think they're the female ninjas in Sui's group. Would greatly appreciate the help. TN note, yes they are, actually it was the 5 individuals consisting of Sukha and Co, and there's actually some males amongst them. 3,000. The 3,000 lizardmen from the Blue Corps were affected by the blessing as well and evolved into dragon newts. 5. The 5 individuals of Sukha and Co had attained strength equivalent to archdemons. A. The Hiryu folks had reached Majin class, and well surpassed a rank. The skill, Dragon Warriorization, seems to have disappeared since they've evolved into the very thing itself. In its place, they seem to have acquired the ability Dragon Scale Armor instead, an ability that turns their scales into armor. Gable and the rest already had defenses that were equal to Legendary class, but using this new ability would their defenses jump to be close to God class. Naturally, not only did their defensive power rise, their offensive power rose as well. Their race remained as dragon newts but they received a drastic increase in power. Sukha and Co, the females too had defensive power that was higher than usual. Their appearance is usually like a human being's, but if they were their skin would unconsciously change into scales. TN note, if case anyone forget, the female Dragonewts have a human-like form since they desired it, but the males looked like winged lizardmen since they find no need for a human form. Perhaps, when using dragon scale armor, the distinction between males and females may become impossible. Through time, the reddish-purple scales had gradually faded back to their original blackish-purple. But, the brightness as well as depth within the scales have been increased compared to before. It had obsidian-like artistic quality. Even one piece of the scale seemed to fetch a high price. Well, they'll probably dislike it though, so there's no point asking. However, because I called Gable a king, splendid horns had protruded from his forehead. Due to Gable's conceited air, it complimented him well. But, that's all good. This was suitable for a heavenly dragon lord. He had an excellent evolution that united power with dignity. Unlike my evolution, he completed his evolution without the need to sleep. He was quite suitable to be the king of my subordinates. Heavenly Dragon Lord was born. Next, the people who participated in the capital defensive battle on the surface. 3. These 3 were Gerudo, Shin and Diablo. There doesn't seem to be any danger of them going berserk, but just to be safe we'll do it one by one. I will give out my words of appreciation and grant power to them. Starting off with Gerudo. However, I am thankful for the proposal, but isn't there a person more qualified than I am? In this defense, Rimuru-sama assigned Carrera-san as my support. If she wasn't there, the defensive battle would have been a lot more difficult. He declined the awakening to Demon Lord with the power of his spirit. It's just a jest, but the rampage of the Orc Demon Lord Orc Disaster was probably another reason. TN note, Orc Disaster was the orc that led the orc army against the lizardmen and destroyed most of the ogres, but was eventually defeated by Rimuru early on. Gerudo probably wouldn't run out of control. However, I can't clear away his uneasiness. Besides, this is probably also a form of atonement. He was a person that once carried the responsibility of spreading calamity within the Great Jura Forest when they were out of control. His eyes shone with a strong will and unbending determination. I understand. Then strive harder, in order to perform a suitably distinguished military service. However, there is no denying that the defense battle was splendidly executed. Your work was without a doubt wonderful. Above all, from now on you will be playing an active role in the construction of the city. This time, I will grant this to you. From today on, you will be known as Barrier Lord. TN note, the kanji meant something like Guardian Conqueror. After saying so, I took out the remodeled legendary ranked equipment that I attained during the war, and granted it to Gerudo. There was a mixed response in Gerudo's Yuki. This piece of equipment will be Gerudo's private arms. The difference between myth class and legend class is based on the user's own level of skillfulness with the arms. The arms would constantly evolve over time. However, the speed of the evolution rises incredibly when it's wielded by a skillful owner. Because Gerudo's ability is specialized in defense, even if it's legendary class equipment, his defensive power will probably rival a god rank. That's what I predicted. The big shield was prepared for him. I expect defensive power would further increase. Gerudo received the rewards respectfully and bowed to me. I gratefully accept. I'll devote myself to living up to this new title, Barrier Lord. Gerudo declared, and went back into line. Under present conditions, I don't have enough souls to awaken everyone. So I'll accept Gerudo's response this time. But, you should forgive yourself for going out of control back then, forget all about it during the next opportunity. I want you to ascend magnificently. Tien, remember the orcs resorting to cannibalism and eating everything? Yeah. Nobody's shunning Gerudo for what happened in the past anymore. Though the refusal by Gerudo was unexpected, the remaining two people will probably accept it. After all, it's Diablo and Shin. You could even call them the evilest individuals. Tien note, may mean misfortune, but it could also mean evil, something that causes widespread chaos and destruction, and so on. If these two people run out of control at the same time, there will be some serious damage. If it was Benimaru, I would be cautious, but I wasn't worried. Shin already has some self-control now, but Diablo isn't exactly unlinked to rampaging though. And so, we begin with Shin. Shin, I appoint you as Warlord. Henceforth, please protect everyone without going berserk. While saying so, I granted her the souls. But, huh? There was no change. Shin was blankly staring at me. We stared at each other for a while, but there was no indication of change. A dud? As a result, it seemed as if I didn't reward Shin. Well, this is awkward. I have suddenly fallen into quite a pinch. In any case, I haven't prepared anything else. That was what I thought, but something unexpected happened. Although there were no changes in Shin, the members of Yamigiri suddenly started to evolve. Although I don't understand, since these are Shin's subordinates, things like this will probably happen. Because monsters have a lot of strange quirks and features, you shouldn't be surprised by every single one of them. That's why, leaving Shin alone is a good idea. Shin seemed to be dissatisfied, but after whispering to her about being taught the recipe for the latest dish, she nodded in satisfaction and went back into line. She was easy to handle. However, there's still Shin's subordinates, the folks of Yamigiri. They seemed to have turned some half-spirit life forms. Rather than calling them a demon, perhaps it would be more appropriate to call them a Yuma. It seems that they've evolved into a kind of unique race that resembles spirits. Tien note, not spirits as in dead people, but more like spirits as in tree spirits, dryads, and fire spirits, Ifrit. They possessed bodies, but their existences were closer to demons. They had lower magic essence compared to the Hiryu. They also seemed to have lower defensive power as well. If you considered their immortality trait, it would be difficult to determine who's the stronger one. Though they were formerly part of the hobgoblin race, they're completely different now. Since Shin's ogre traits had greatly surfaced, they also look more becoming than the others. Nobody would believe that her subordinates were goblins in the past. It's unexpected that there were no changes in Shin, but evolution has in fact occurred. In this sense, the victory celebration continued. Underscore 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 un. Note to Geto-san. It's overall alright, but there are quite a few mistakes here and there, bits of clunky sentences, and even a few bits entirely left out. Proofreading would help eliminate these problems, and try reading it aloud if you think certain lines sound weird. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 163, Reward and Evolution Part 2. Now then, the problem was Diablo. He would, without question, become the strongest among the candidates for evolution. Not just the strongest among my subordinates, but peering even my own strength. Diablo was now stronger than when he fought with Benimaru. TENSEI Tournament Arc. His defeat at that time only fueled a desire to overcome such adverse conditions the next time. To that effect, he was, even at present, the strongest among my subordinates. Wisdom Lord Raphael had calculated thus, so there was no doubt. Following Diablo in the ranks were Benimaru, Shin, and Zijin in that order. Following them are the three Demon Dukes. Tien, Carrera, Testa, and Ultima I assume. Zijin was a bit of a surprise, but Diablo was still many degrees stronger. This Diablo was to be evolved. With his strength now surpassing that of mine when I first evolved, his evolution is one that I highly anticipate. I bestow you with the title Demon Lord. Tien, the author keeps calling everything Demon Lord, damn it. Longer note at the end. Keep serving me as my loyal confidant and as the leader of the demons. Kyufu, it would be my honor, Rimuru-sama. And the devil was born. Diablo's evolution put him at the highest peaks along with this world's strongest. With Benimaru and Shin's evolutions being rather underwhelming, he was truly the one who could stand beside me. It was done in an instant. I thought for a moment that it was going to be similar to Shin's, but it wasn't in the least. He had all the increased energy perfectly under control, and didn't let it show. That's Diablo for you, only excellence. Tien, Sajiga. The compressed magic rivaled or even surpassed the amount I saw before in Demon Lord Daggerul. With this evolution, we have gained another great asset. Could I fight him all out this time? Was my secret thought. Diablo's gift, Tien, blessing, or that mechanic where your underlings can get stronger just by you getting stronger, propagated through his lackey Venom, and the 100 demon troops subordinate to him. Venom evolved to Demon Duke class. But he was still weaker than the likes of Testarossa or Carrera. Even being the same Demon Duke class, his stats were not as high. Among the demon aristocracy, there were such things as dukes, barons, and knights. In the first place, the three demon dukes that Diablo had brought along had enough power to almost match himself. The three who had held positions amongst the strongest for so long wouldn't lose to some greenhorn like Venom. It wouldn't be a battle of luck, nor would the increased energy levels give him increased intelligence. This difference in level would create an insurmountable difference in strength. Still, it may be my imagination, but Diablo seemed to hold back the propagation of his gift. I don't honestly know if that's even possible, I felt like that was the case. But it was Diablo, so anything could happen. So this result was expected. Diablo seemed to have the view that one must gain strength by their own means. Even so, Venom wasn't that weak to begin with. For better or worse, he did become a Demon Duke. It was enough of an evolution. Further, he didn't get in over his head after becoming the same class as Testarossa and Co., and duly noted the difference in power between him and them. His being Diablo's subordinate showed. Tien, Sajiga. Well, if he did get too ambitious, Diablo would probably have ended him right there. Diablo wasn't soft on those under his command. Besides Venom, there were others who received the gift. The 100 subordinates of Venom who here given automaton bodies from the culture capsules, have become elite demon chevaliers, Tien, knights. They were not as strong as archdemons, but surpassed the strength of devils. Tien, imagine, they could probably finish a greater demon in a single hit. To be honest, their strength was unexpected. Diablo exceeds common sense as usual. Tien, Sajiga. But the person in question didn't seem to care, and left the demon chevaliers to the management of Venom. Diablo's priority was to be of use to me, it seems. Even after the evolution, Diablo be Diablo. Next, would be the rewards for the guys in the labyrinth. Zijin, Kyumura, Adalman. They called themselves members of the 10 Lords of the Labyrinth. At this point, worrying about them going berserk was unnecessary. But to be safe, I did their evolution one by one. First, Kyumura. Her new title would be Chimeric Lord, Kyumura. The Kyumura I had picked up, yet a small silver-furred fox, was now master of several demonic beasts. I had hidden her in the labyrinth originally for protection, but, at some point, she had risen up the ranks of floor bosses, and was now one of the labyrinth guardians. I still remember her as a floor boss. I named her Kumara because she was a nine-tailed fox. Tien, Q equals 9 equals Ku, Mara. I had left her in the freshly made floor 90 where the adventurers would likely never get to, and she later asked me to name some of her friends on that floor. It's important to note that I didn't accept just because a little girl asked. Tien, Lilicon. It was just on a whim. Naming monsters came with some high risks, but naming demonic beasts decreased that risk somewhat. Plus, these beasts were like children, so I named them with no problem. And that had resulted in a shocking before-after. It was shocking to anyone. It was shocking to me. What's done was done. The demonic beasts being parts of Kumara herself, she had acquired 9 names from me. And her current strength was made possible by acquiring the dense demonic energy of 9 named monsters. It was past the time when they were just kids, and the 8 of the demonic beasts were lined up in front of me. At a glance, they were each pretty strong. Kumara successfully evolved into Demon Lord class. Kumara's tails all became shining golden, and her hair, a beautiful mix of silver and gold, flowed gently down her back. Was it only her beauty that evolved? No, certainly her energy also increased greatly. Kumara was very strong in her original body. But, only after combining with her 8 beasts in Chimera mode would her true strength be known. Energy levels is not equal to real strength, but their combined force was by no means weak. In other terms, Kumara's being strong equals the 8 beasts being strong. In addition, on top of being named by me, Kumara's gift was also properly allocated among them. It was like all the power given to the beasts were unfairly transmitted back to her. No one could guess from her appearance as a beautiful lady, but she seemed to be the cold and calculating type. Naturally, she could not get along with the naive and impulsive Apito. From an energy standpoint, she now surpassed Gable easily. And this enormous power was still rising. She desperately kept her senses, so as to not go berserk. Go back and rest. She was a bit frustrated at the order. That part of her was still childlike. I figured that she wouldn't lose it even without me watching, and made her go rest. Probably like Ranga, after a good sleep, her body would be adjusted to the new power. In any case, I was looking forward to her growth. Please don't think I'm looking forward to her new beauty. I'm totally not. Tien, sweats. Though her new beauty would be a certain reality anyway. With that, Kumara returned back to her own domain. Now for Zijin. The strongest in the labyrinth. His energy was equal to that of Benimaru. His specialty in martial arts and ability to train one-to-one with Feldera made his level of power obvious. And the heights of his strength was shown clearly, as he beat the 7 strongest sent by the Imperial Army in the last battle. Now that I think about it, it's like we're popping out demon lords left and right. It couldn't be helped saying it was too much. The souls had been granted to 6 of them already, and 2 had even finished their evolution. There were those still in their harvest festivals, Tien, in a transitional phase, and I've been feeling their new power flowing in. Was it really okay to grant more souls? I was thinking, but my body had been greedily absorbing all the energy flowing in without problem. The process wasn't making them unstable, so there was no need to worry. I needed to bulk down and finish the job. Fear not, charge. Was the feeling. How much stronger could Zijin get? The thought gave me goosebumps, Tien, metaphorical, from excitement. He could end up surpassing me, but that wasn't an issue as long as I had food chain. Let's look forward to it without worries. You are strong. I never imagined you to become this strong. It is thanks to your unrelenting efforts, well done. Continue polishing that strength for me from here on out. And from now on, your title shall be Mist Lord. I am eternally grateful. The normally stoic Zijin trembled with appreciation at my words. My carelessly constructed phrases sounded like excerpts from a holy book to Zijin. He seemed to be looking to me under some strong divine lenses, Tien, metaphorical, looking at Rimuru as a god, but I appreciated his passion. I had set out to gather up and save rare and endangered insects, but they had in turn become strong enough to protect me. Zijin's strength wasn't merely a fruit of effort, but also thanks to his insane talent in handling energy, and also, training with individuals much stronger. Well, those were just the details. He was strong, Nuff said. I awarded the souls. He trembled for a moment, but then crushed the raging power with his spirit. He proved that he was in control. It was certainly not a feat achieved with effort alone. But similar to Diablo, he had taken control of and suppressed his newly attained power. To be accurate, it was not an instant transformation like that of Diablo. He was also currently in a transitional state, but didn't show it. His transformation was nonetheless fearsome. He morphed his outer shell into the ultimate metal, God Steel, Hi-Hi-Iro-Con, through willpower. His body itself, a weapon. Surpassing various laws of nature, he manipulated his exoskeleton into one that rivaled God-class armors. He had become, without a doubt, the strongest in at least melee combat. Melee was weak against spiritual beings, but it shouldn't be a threat for him. He had acquired many other abilities, and was still in the process of evolving. He was suppressing it, but his body was still being remade again and again. I would later slowly confirm exactly how much he had changed. I think author is going into the future here. And in this fashion, the Harvest Festival continued. Zijin's gift had only one receiver, Apito. Those who I had named and also remodeled with my own flesh were Zijin and Apito only. So for Zijin, Apito was like a sister. The insect floors had many other endangered species, but the gift wasn't spread to them. After eating her fill of her minion bees, Apito became a chrysalis and came out reborn. The enormous scale of energy flowing in form the gift would have destroyed her current body. But now she was reborn, to rule as a true queen. After being reborn, she created several demonic insects. The community built with these insects would become the new image of those floors in the near future. With the power accumulated from the insects she ate, Apito became devil class and attained the power queen's reverence. And in addition to being one of the 10 lords, she became a subordinate to Zijin. Diablo had suppressed the propagation of his gift, but Zijin gave his to Apito without reserve, resulting in her extreme transformation. Zijin didn't mind Apito receiving this much of a terrific gift. But all this was a story of after the victory party. Apito never showed any sign of pain during the celebration. It was an effort to show her dignity as a queen, truly a splendid sibling of Zijin. Sajiga. After the festivities, Zijin and Apito would become chrysali inside the labyrinth, and complete their evolution. Zijin had attained a new power from the evolution. Apito's queen's reverence surpassed the power of a unique skill and became a pseudo-ultimate skill, the likes of absolute defense. It was an amazing power, yes, but didn't compare to that of Zijin. He had acquired a true ultimate skill, Illusion King Mephisto. A splendid ability, considering he was Feldora's disciple. With this power, Zijin made his position in the labyrinth unshakable. Author's words. Sorry, it's split again. My writing speed slowed by more than half. Making a plot is really hard. Translators Rant. I've become increasingly slothful. Well, thanks to Ghetto and the people who fixed up chapter 162, I felt like it was good enough, no need to waste the reader's time with multiple version BS. These chapters are, well, bold up I guess, storms be a brewin'. Anyway, new chapter in 3 more days probably. If anyone wants to help out, feel free to contact. I'm really new at WordPress, so I'll try not to mess up this post. Here goes. Correction, King of Devils - Demon Lord. It's Magino as opposed to Mao like Rimuru and co. Demon Lord is what the author meant Diablo to be called, in English I guess. I think it may be confusing, but let's just go with it. Thanks Adalpha for convincing me. Clarification. It says, written by Lion Mask. Should be, translated by. I don't know how to edit that bit. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 164, Reward and Evolution Part 3. Well then, let us now get to Adalman's team, the last of the Labyrinth group. Adalman had large reserves of magic, but was weak against melee combat. However, he was a genius who could use Holy Demonic Reversal. It was strange how he was so smart, considering he was missing a brain. It was a power involving mathematical circuits imbued onto the soul. Furthermore, wielding special skills like perfect memory and soul think, his existence came close to that of a spiritual form. All ordinary physical attacks were nullified, and only legendary tier and above weapons could actually harm him. It was similar to Hinata's spirit armor, and against enemies donning legendary tier equipment, it did not provide much defense. Albert had been pushed back by such enemies, so it was unreasonable to blame him. His weapon being broken, compromising the vanguard, was one of the main reasons for their defeat. Having been defeated, I cannot possibly accept this reward. Adalman stated in frustration. No, he was worrying too much. Don't say that. You've done well. I'm saying this, so believe me, won't you? To begin with, I had not expected it, but Adalman had beaten Shinji's team. Tien, when they came as spies. He had obviously developed far more than I had anticipated. His fight up with Krishna, one of the Emperor's personal guard, was just a bad matchup. So I had already pardoned him, and was going to start the ascension ritual, but even still, Rimura-sama, I cannot forgive myself. For me to ascend to the demon lordship, same as your highness. I would gladly take the opportunity to become one, when I have earned it. He resisted my offer thus. It was true that the labyrinth was our last line of defense, and its defensive strength it was important. At this point, rather than trying to protect the current capital city of Tempest, it was optimal to transfer all the important facilities into deep inside the labyrinth. The capital itself would then work as a place to host international dignitaries, becoming in effect, a vacation town. On that note, the labyrinth also had its 10 lords. And there was no problem with leaving its defense to demon lord class individuals like Zijin or Kumara. The labyrinth I had built as a playground had turned into a fortress all of a sudden. I wanted Adalman to attain demon lordship, but I shouldn't ignore his personal wishes. I understand. But I will hold great expectations of you. When there is another chance, be sure to prove the worth of those expectations. Of course. Your Highness will surely observe my worth with your own eyes. Yes. I shall remember those words of yours. So, leaving aside your ascension to Demon Lord, from today onwards, I bestow you with the title, Gehenna Lord. You shall work hard so as to live up to that name. As you desire, your Highness. Fu. Tien breathes out. Speaking with all this dignity really tires you out. Anyway, Adalman was now also considered among my strongest subordinates, having received a lord title. From now on, his authority would increase. That is, if he was willing to exercise that privilege. Tien, warning, character switching like crazy. Well then, Adalman wasn't the only one who had been defeated. Albert needed to get his broken equipment replaced. He was able to use average weapons and armor with the skills of a master. Were the legendary tier items taken from the Empire more suited to him? Was my train of thought. Who would get to use the only god tier set? There was a reason why I didn't give it to Gerudo. His skills would be suited to legendary tier, and advancing to god tier would be a matter of time. Skill wasn't the only reason, but Gerudo probably wouldn't be able to use the god tier set to its full potential. At a glance, Calgurio was not a weak man. In fact, he even had skills and was a decent fighter. Even so, he never could bring out the potential of his god tier set, and only used it as a high defense armor. A god tier armor chose its master. I knew this sort of secret info after much analysis. Tien, via Raphael Sensei, I guess. Demonic steel maturing over many years transforms into god steel, becoming a Tsukumagami, Tien, a living tool, so to say, and attains god tier power. Equipment crafted from such metals would be extremely underpowered in the hands of the unskilled. For a short-lived human, gaining a mastery required for such treasures would be but a distant dream. But even becoming a ghost with an unlimited lifespan, he was a soul who had not lost his talents as a holy knight. Possibly being even better than Hakura at swordsmanship, was Albert really not worthy of such equipment? After all, most of the candidates to evolve into demon lordship had no need of new armors, as they could make them on their own. For example, demons like Diablo could make their own clothes through a type of materialization power. It was a very strong, perhaps even legendary tier attire. but those clothes were only meant to be insurance. It was a backup if the force field they put up was to be broken. Honestly, I considered granting the armor to Benimaru or Sui, but that decision might be better considered after they were evolved. In the first place, nullify physical attacks would cause most armors to be useless. Furthermore, with time, it may be possible to improve legendary tier to god tier, so it was alright not to worry about their gear right now. Shinzodaki, the improved Hercules Edge, had somehow even turned into a weapon of legendary tier destructive power. Kurobe's armors could be good candidates for evolution. And there was also a matter of compatibility with the armor. Anyway, Wisdom Lord Raphael-san had already determined Albert to be worthy. In that case, Albert's reward would be the god-tier armor confiscated from Calgurio. It was a full-plate armor that came with a longsword and kite shield in a set. Albert, your sword skills are truly masterful. Continue helping Adalman with those unwavering hands. Roger. Speaking thus, I handed Albert his reward. Having to receive it directly from my hands left him shaking with tension. Tien, Lilicon. He worried way too much. This is. Recognizing the power of what he now held, Albert let out a voice of astonishment. It was understandable. These items were legacies from the Age of Gods, even their existence was debated. For a knight, having permission to use them was the greatest honor. Can you make use of it? I won't let him refuse. Grasping the strength of my intentions. Yes, sir. I will make the best use of it, to repay you for this honor. Albert replied loudly. In this way, I safely handed over the set to Albert, and he was easily recognized as the armor's master. But I had made one miscalculation. The true power of the fully released god-tier armor was beyond my imagination. Hey, no one told me this. The analysis didn't show this. Wisdom Lord Raphael, I finally understood the reason for my overreaction. She knew, didn't she? Tien, I call Raphael-san a she because of certain spoilers. That was why she advocated for Albert and not Benimaru. Turn a body of flesh into that of a spirit form for a certain amount of time. That was the hidden power of god-tier armor. A spirit form, in other words, a god-like being. Feldera was like that, and speaking of which, I was too. I didn't pay much attention, but it was certainly a state close to being immortal. Eternal youth was guaranteed, along with a strong degree of immortality. I couldn't die unless there was a core break or energy roast successfully performed on me. Although temporary, to be able to grant an existence of that scale, this armor was fearsome. But for this reason, it was not suited to half-spirit forms like Benimaru, and even less for true spirit forms like demons. The armor had gone to where it belonged. Now, that was all of the 10 lords done with, but we shouldn't forget Adalman's pet dragon. That's right, the death dragon also did well. I wonder what could be a good reward. I walked past the 4 dragon kings, Tien, the bosses of floors 96 plus, and arrived at Death Dragon's feet. Sensing my arrival, the Death Dragon bowed its head nervously. Its fearsome appearance aside, it was pretty cute, to be honest. I want to give you something too. It is a name. From today you are the Gehennic Dragon King, Wenti. I named it thus in front of everyone. And a dramatic transformation resulted. The 20m long beast shrunk in front of our eyes and transformed into a beauty garbed in black. Tien, degree. This time I wasn't so surprised. With monsters, anything was possible. Having experienced this so many times, I wouldn't get worked up so easily. I didn't have any complaints this time, it's only natural. This was my character now. I am pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Ah, benevolent and cherished God. To give my lowly self such a blessing, I am ecstatic. Ah, yeah. By blessing she means name. Oh, good for you, Death, I mean, Wenti. Ah, Master, God had not forgotten me. Indeed, this is also for our growth. Yes. Such a nice master pet love. Tien, degree. Yeah, good for them. I feel a bit like a third wheel. Well, they seem happy, so it's all good. Actually, my power didn't drain with this naming. I had used 5,000 souls for the process. Wisdom Lord Raphael San's analyses has determined this to be possible, and conversion to energy was possible with Gluttony King Beelzebub. Clearly, there was a risk considering the amount of energy possibly necessary to name an elite monster of dragon class. I had named the Demon Dukes before using the energy that Beelzebub had slowly accumulated. It would be a problem if I went to sleep mode, from using up my internal stock. The total amount of energy had increased, and it was impossible to know how long it would take to recover if used up. It was not okay to get drained like that, especially now that we were at war. I had finally realized why the other demon lords didn't go around naming their devil class subordinates. At the very least, it was imperative to stop naming things during a war period. This time, using souls as an alternative, my burden was nil. Much thanks to Wisdom Lord Raphael. There were no problems since 9 of them had already ascended to demon lordship. Getting a human form would be surprising, but a dragon changing to human was a well-known cliché. It was not surprising at all. Anyway, with that, the commendations and rewards for the Labyrinth group had ended. On a side note, the 4 Dragon Kings were under Ramiris' command. So they were excluded from my list, but actually, I had something for them too. There was a total of 940,000 souls collected, and to revive 700,000 of the Imperial troops, around 10,000 were used. Well, some of them seemed to require a very high amount of spirit energy, so the total cost was a bit higher than expected. And then I tried to divide up the 930,000 remaining souls between me and Ramiris, but yeah, I don't have any way to use souls, so no thanks, K. She told me. So then, I resurrected Michelle and Raymond as her assistants. It was not a partial revival, but a full-blown resurrection. With their nucleic hearts intact, complete soul revival was possible, and they were still able to use their skills. I felt that that wasn't enough to thank Ramiris, so I granted names to the 4 Dragon Kings in a similar way to Wenti. After all, they were worked to the bone in recent events and even died a few times, rewarding them was a matter of course. Dragons who were said to be potentially stronger than archdemons, but their natural evolution had limits. With that in mind, I provided each with 5,000 souls and had Ramiris name them. I was again using souls as an alternate to energy. The results were splendid, and the Dragon Kings had now become true Dragon Kings. Fire Hell Dragon King, Zephyrus. Ice Hell Dragon King, Boreas. Lightning Dragon King, Notos. Tremor Dragon King, Euros. Tien, Unmei. They were named according to the floors they governed. I thought up the names, but had Ramiris do the actual naming. They all attained beautiful humanoid forms. Their evolution was a success, and they had gained a huge boost in energy along with their human forms. To be precise, it was only a humanoid form, and they hadn't become dragonoids like Milim. Dragon Yods were actually spirit forms who dwelled in flesh, so they were in irregular existence. Even if they were powerful dragon lords, as they were held in flesh, their power was lower than the dragons, a true spirit form species. The souls used for naming on this occasion was undeniably less than the amount needed to ascend to demon lordship. But, their strength was said to be equivalent. Demon lords and dragon kings were inherently different, and more importantly, monsters weren't bound by many forms of logic. If you think too hard, you lose. And so, the process of evolving the Dragon Kings to give thanks to Ramiris went along smoothly. By the way, the 10 lords of the labyrinth were fairly equal in energy, but there were large differences in actual fighting power. So, the 4 Dragon Kings also had equal stores of energy, but were weaker in fighting prowess. This was mainly due to overall fighting experience, their levels were just lower. They seemed to be fairly frustrated with being defeated multiple times recently, so the dragons had decided to undergo training. They had attained humanoid forms, and were also interested in combat styles in their new bodies. Without relying solely on elemental attacks or physical attacks using their fangs and talons, they would learn and incorporated magic. And by learning to fight as humanoids, they would later prove their might in battle. This would work so well, that their newfound strength would grow tremendously, but that was something I'd get to see a lot later. Now then, the only ones left are the triad of Demon Dukes. What I should do, was the question. Of the 930,000 souls, I had used up a majority on ascending some to demon lordship, and on naming some, and in the end the amount remaining was 210,000. I could ascend 2 more, but was it alright to evolve Carrera as Gerudo suggested? If I did, then there was still Testa and Ul. Which one of them should I choose? These 3 were almost equal to Diablo in strength in the first place. In my view, Diablo was a step ahead, but originally their powers were equivalent. Diablo had to first beat them, and then scout them as my subordinates, so he had to be stronger. Therefore, wouldn't there be a problem in creating a power misbalance among them? Frankly, it was dangerous. If they were not all treated equally, there would definitely be hurt feelings. If it was just Carrera, I don't think there would be any complaints, but making the strongest one of them even stronger seemed wrong. Sort of like, uncontrollable power would lead to her own demise. After all, if she hadn't stopped her gravity collapse in the nick of time, the resulting mini-supernova tear blast would have decimated Gerudo's troops along with all of the capital. She was probably aware that she could stop it, but that choice of magic in that situation and place seemed like a red flag. I decided to observe whether the ones who had already evolved could control their power before thinking of granting ascension to those girls. On that note, as if reading my mind, Diablo would always take appropriate measures. He was able to bring his new power fully under control, and was an all-around dependable guy. Testarossa, Ultima, Carrera. You 3 have worked well as intelligence gatherers in the recent battles. However, your ascension shall be granted at a more appropriate time. I have considered Gerudo's thoughts on evolving Carrera, but I believe that doing so now would be a premature action. You may be dissatisfied, but please understand. Rimuru-sama, please do not lower your head. We have not the slightest reason to be dissatisfied. Exactly. Tien, Disuwa. It is a non-issue. We are already very strong as it is. The 3 denied any and all possibility of dissatisfaction. They were indeed correct in saying that they possessed much strength. And they were probably stronger than the evolved Gable even at present. There was no need to rush their development, or create needless bitterness. It's probably better to handle these 3 together. I am glad to hear that. I feel like we truly understand each other. But I cannot let you go without any reward. I will have you 3 be part of my executives. Killer Lord Testarossa. Tien, Kira, Killer, like in Death Note. Pain Lord Ultima. Menace Lord Carrera. On this day, I bestow you with these titles. You are still new to the country of Tempest, but I will entrust its future to you as my loyal confidants. As you desire, my liege. They lowered their heads in unison. They seemed to like their titles. With that, I now had 12 lords under my wing. They had been called the 4 Heavenly Kings or the 10 Lords of the Labyrinth, but my 12 lords would be known as Rimuru's 12 patrons. Well, I'm not too finicky about the name, but it should give off a strongest team feel. At this point, Gobuta, being one of them, became increasingly bizarre. My power to reward people was actually quite fun. As I gazed at the patrons lined up in front of me, I bemused such thoughts. With this, the rewards and evolution ceremony had finally come to an end. Perhaps influenced by today's events, I would later be known as Chaos Creator Rimuru. Tien, author's words. This part felt very prolonged, but I plan to progress the story from the next chapter. Character introductions take some time and I don't think it was done very well. If there is a chance, I will use it, so please be understanding. Translators Rant. This was another rather long chapter. It feels like the prologue to this arc has ended. Lots happened. There were a lot of readers who wanted to help out with translations too. The good, the bad, and the ugly, that kind of feeling. Well, I have in fact teamed up with Smoggy, so theoretically, translations should be faster. But there is no need to raise false hopes. Since things like school are big deterrents to a time-consuming work like translation. I try to maintain the progress bars on this page. People like progress bars, it seems. As for chapter 165, right now I have no idea. Be on the lookout for the progress bar updates. Well then, I shan't talk too long. See you in another chapter, Gao. Corrections: I've made a few corrections as Alf Hassan suggested in the comments, but not all of them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 165, The Out of Control Gears. TN note, from this chapter onwards, I'll put the katakana in brackets next to the words they were meant to be above. Enjoy. 165. The Out of Control Gears. The news had not arrived into the Empire yet. However, for the Empire's citizens ignorance was bliss. The Imperial soldiers who headed out to invade Tempest, in other words their beloved families, were slain by some unknown means. With a force that almost reaches 1,000,000 strong, they never considered the possibility of defeat. He would definitely accomplish the Empire's earnest wish of conquering the west side. They never doubted the Emperor who would one day unite the lands. To the unlucky northeast in the Great Jura Forest, the evil dragon Feldera is currently weakened. There's nothing to fear anymore. TN note, means northeast, but since the author wants to reference to the fact northeast is an unlucky direction in Japanese culture was used instead of. Under the imperial reign of the great emperor, the greatest imperial army invasion has finally begun. These were the thoughts of the general citizens. Nobody expected them to have a hard time, let alone defeat. Neither were there any survivor left, nor did they ever reach the western countries, and simply all perished in the Great Jura Forest. There was not a single soul who could imagine this scenario. Yuuki received the report, and made a wry smile. If the forces of almost 1,000,000 strong was used well, perhaps there's a chance they could eliminate the Demon Lord Rimuru. But to think it was a complete annihilation. Literally, the result was every soldier killed without exception. Demon Lord Rimuru gone and the Imperial Army suffering heavy casualties, that would be the ideal scenario. The next most ideal scenario would be Demon Lord Rimuru and the Imperial Army dealing heavy damage to each other. If both sides ended up suffering major causalities, then he would have earned some time as planned. He would launch a coup d'état before the wounded Imperial Army returns, then he would assimilate the returning armored corps to form a stable foundation. And while stalling for time as he recovers from the damage dealt by Demon Lord Rimuru, he'll use this time to seize the Empire in his grasp. When he opened the lid and looked inside, not only did the Demon Lord hardly suffer any damage, it was practically a one-sided trampling. Although he didn't lose any of his own core, game pieces he could have utilized went up in flames. It was an unexpected scenario. But what's most startling of all, was how much Demon Lord Rimuru's forces have grown. Unbelievable. To think he raised that large army with ease. 3. It truly is unbelievable. If it's an army of that scale, they would have strength on par with 3 Demon Lord armies. No, compared to the 10 great Demon Lords of your era, the calibers of the current octagram are a bit extraordinary. Take Leon for example, even when he's hiding his true strength he still has the battle prowess of a magic knight corps. Even Miram, who was famous for having no subordinates, has taken in Carrion and Frey, 2 old Demon Lord class individuals, as her subordinates. There's also the Demon Lord who's been gathering territory, and is now the ruler of the Great Jura Forest. Then of course there's Guy, who's the strongest, alongside Dagruel and Rumen, is dubbed the largest faction alongside their own forces. Aren't the only weak ones Ramaris and Dino? That's true, huh? Although he originally wanted to refute Yuuki, he showed a convinced expression after hearing the explanation. It's true, the situation's very different compared to when he was a Demon Lord. Despite having their battle potential shaved during the battle against the Angels, Dagruel and Rumen has displayed some ridiculous power. But for the other new Demon Lords, even if they gathered subordinates to a certain degree, survival is still a desperate issue. This was also a similar case for Kagari, or Curse Lord Kazarim. More importantly, there's also no point in simply increasing the number of subordinates. This was evident from Clayman's failure. For those whose strength surpasses a certain threshold, an army's strength in numbers is pointless before them. If there's one question present, there should have been some strong veterans with a certain degree of strength somewhere amidst the armored corps. Why didn't they play an active role is inexplicable. It seems like Demon Lord Rimuru himself didn't take action, it was his subordinates who had devastated the Imperial Army. According to the haggard-looking Miranda's explanation, she feared that Demon Lord class Majin had also joined under the banner of the Demon Lord. Bound to naught, they are like the king of demons, the highest level of beings, Yet they followed a single demon lord. This was something beyond Kaguri's imagination. Someone who could possibly do such a thing, only Lord of Darkness, Guy Crimson came to mind. However, things have sure gotten interesting. Currently, the Imperial Army has also started the two-front war against Luminous. Calgurio's defeat still hasn't been transmitted, and Gladam's demonic beast corps and airships are moving to the north. The defense of the capital is left to the hybrid corps. In other words, if I will it, I can grasp the heart of the Empire in my hands. If we don't need to be vigilant about the armored corps' return, let's start our military operation with some swagger. So in other words, let's just cut off the Emperor's head in his sleep, something like that. Yeah. That's right. It's a coup d'état. These words put a suspicious smile on Kaguri's face. To bring forth chaos onto this world was Kaguri's desire, no matter what the method. Although things didn't go as Yuuki predicted, this doesn't mean they're in a bad position. Or rather, this is a chance to seize the Empire. Plans were made, even failure was taken into consideration. Yuuki was well aware of that. He will result in profit no matter what the scenario. TN note, basically means finding profit in anything, but it also means a greedy person who is able to do so. Understood. Then, I'll go prepare. Saying so, Kaguri stood up from her seat. Looks like things are going to get busier, she thought as her smile deepens. Her face, as if lusting for more bloody and tragedy, was tainted with wickedness. Watching Kaguri exit, Yuuki was deep in thought. Even thought Demon Lord Rimura's growth was outside of his expectations, but he'll be putting this aside for now. Just now, he has obtained definitive confirmation of the Imperial Army's defeat. In addition, he had also confirmed the absurd growth of Rimura's military might. If that's the case, he can only predict what will happen after that. He will make a move. With things as they are, that strongest existence will definitely not overlook this. The destruction of the Imperial Army isn't a problem, rather it was just what he wanted. If it's to send Demon Lord Rimura to his grave, it doesn't matter who does it. Now then, what are you going to do now? Rimura-san. I'd like to see how long you'd last. It would be splendid if this could end in mutual destruction. At least, if Guy could get rid of Rimuru, there's one less problem to deal with. If you could also injure Guy in the process, that would be great. Yes. If his strength has gotten this strong, then Guy Crimson would definitely make a move. And things have already progressed to such a stage. So far the plan's still on track, with a few modification, and the plan can continue on with no problems. Yuuki looked at Chloe, who didn't respond to his words, and slightly smiled. 2 commands left. 3 enemies to defeat. If two of them could strike each other down, then his wish could come true without expending his greatest combat asset. Although things deviated from his expectations, they are still advancing smoothly. Yuuki deepened his thoughts regarding future plans in high spirits. However, to interpret every event was a difficult task. To realign the gears that had spun out of control was no easy task. Things have already gotten out of Yuuki's hands, and started to advance in an unforeseen direction. After finishing her report to Yuuki, Miranda swiftly began making preparations to leave the capital. As a member of the military, desertion before the enemy is a capital offense. She obtained this identity as a disguise, and yet it led to this. It was a position she obtained after many hardships. And yet they became her very shackles, truly ironic. As a head of the underground organization Cerberus, she had no qualms about running. A dark organization that has its roots in each nation, like the Freedom Association, there would definitely be a Cerberus member lurking about. Naturally, there are also similar organizations existing within the Empire's capital, and so her plan was to lay low, and wait for a chance to escape to the west. She was so close to inveigling Calgurio's success was one step away. With her charms as a woman, with a bit more effort she would have seized authority over the armored corps. 100. Even though it was the Demon Lord Damrata feared, if an army of 1,000,000 was used well, there isn't really much to fear. Expel the Demon Lord, and conquer the western countries. And then, by manipulating Calgurio, be basked in the center of glory in the Empire. She should have made a triumph return, with a promising future ahead of her. Yet now, she's gathering her belongings and escaping under the cover of night, due to something like fleeing. This was maximum humiliation. This was all because of Yuuki for underestimating Demon Lord Rimuru, and Calgurio for being so useless. Damrata obeyed Yuuki out of fear, but Miranda only did so for she judged he has his uses. It's just, since Yuuki was the one who founded the organization Cerberus, that's why there's value in manipulating him. Since her womanly charms didn't work, she needed to follow orders. In any case, as of currently the top priority was to get out of here. After finishing her report she had gotten permission to escape. She should find a safe haven first before thinking about pointless things. TN note, Ra says something like a place to wait things out. Thinking so, she stuffed all her belongings into a bag, and fled from her house into the imperial capital night with darkness as her shroud. In the dark depths of the capital. Thanks to the benefits of a scientific civilization, street lamps have been implemented substituting lanterns. However, they don't illuminate every nook and cranny. Since the imperial capital is still under development, to dispel all the darkness was a matter in the future. In the darkness of the capital, Miranda silently moves about. Albeit inferior to Vega and Damrata, as a head Miranda does possess a certain degree of ability. Even thought she's making a sneaky escape, Miranda thought there's no need to be so anxious. However, that has led to failure. It wasn't due to Miranda's carelessness, but there was a man standing in Miranda's way. If Miranda left behind her property and left the capital as quickly as she could, perhaps she could have escaped from that person. However, her confidence as a head shall become her downfall as Miranda confronted the man. That man is Tatsuya Kondo. Someone from the Intelligence Bureau. He was a mysterious person with an unknown identity who knows everything about the capital's darkness. Where do you plan on going at this late hour? Era? Why isn't that Lieutenant Kondo? Suddenly appearing before her, and telling her to halt, Miranda hid her flustered emotions and showed a composed facade. However, she vigilantly sensed the surrounding for other presences, confirming Tatsuya was alone. There are neither other figures nor presences in the vicinity. After confirming Kondo came alone, she was relieved in her mind. To come here alone is like telling Miranda, kill me please. If it's no to the headquarters that she fled before the enemy, it's going to be a problem when they start sending pursuers after her. If she fled to the west she's just be targeted by spies, she'd rather be spared from living of fear of being assassinated on a daily basis. In this case Miranda must eliminate anything that knows the truth. She feared that Krishna may have used a magic item and conveyed the situation. However, it doesn't appear her abandonment was reported, Miranda thought. She concluded that since news of the Imperial Army's complete annihilation was reported, the Empire's defenses must have been strengthened. Miranda understood this. Consequently, it sucked running into the most troublesome man in the Intelligence Bureau, but there were no signs of incoming reinforcements. If she got rid of Kondo now, escaping the capital would become easier. In an instant, Miranda made her decision. Miranda doesn't know how Kondo viewed her, but she decided she must uproot the buds of danger. In other words, she decided to kill Kondo. You're Corps Captain Calgurio's advisor, Miranda, right? Why have you returned to the Imperial capital in the middle of battle? In reply to Kondo's serious inquiry. I was so scared, Lieutenant Kondo. Actually, I've received secret orders from Calgurio Kaka, and returned to the capital. TN note, Kaka is a way to address someone, much like San or Chan, but for people with a high position. Miranda approached him whilst replying, and snuggled into Kondo's bosom. She made full use of her womanly charms, to entice the man. With her usual method of charming with perfume, curse and illusion series, she would impair her opponent's thinking while dominating them. She also used this spell on Calgurio several times while he embraced her, and soon she would be able to wrap them around her little finger without doing so. TN note, make them listen to her without using her curses and illusions. Even a man who was the Army Corps leader was no match against Miranda's spells. A mere lieutenant would never be able to resist. Miranda was convinced, and placed her hand around Kondo's back. Pressing her voluptuous breasts against Kondo while appealing her charm, she waited for Kondo to relax. Once she felt Kondo's presence loosened. Phew, fun, I thought he was a serious man, but that was easy. She snickered in her mind. All right, embrace me as you please, once you become my captive. Those were Miranda's last thoughts. Without changing his expression, Kondo tucked away a small pistol that he used to shoot Miranda in her temple. He has already obtained the intelligence to read the target's mind through physical contact. This was the unique skill reader. TN note, katakana says reading, but kanji says reader. Yuuki's intentions, Miranda's objective, and even the fact there were no survivors in the Imperial Army. To read all of this took less than a second. And then, despite reading through all that information, his expression didn't change. With an uninterested look. A coup d'état. How foolish. He muttered. He then glanced at the corpse, and left. Later on, a member of the Intelligence Bureau had dealt with Miranda's corpse, leaving no trace behind. The night of the capital is deep and dark, and all that happens stays buried in the dark. Guy laughed fearlessly without fear, and stood up. He received an astonishing report. Dino was sent to spy on Demon Lord Remuru's movements, but he was unexpectedly useful. It was rare for the lazy Dino. I got kicked out of Dagruel's place, so I want to crash at Remuru's place. Can you help me write a letter of introduction? To actually come over and say such a thing. To think that lazy Dino would move by his own free will, this was something that hasn't happened for thousands of years. During the battle with the angels, there were several occasions where he'd team up with Dino against troublesome opponents. There were no other recollections aside from that. If there's something report about it, okay. Being overly chummy with people is how Dino rolls. For the strongest guy, he doesn't really particularly need any spies, but it's going to be annoying to have him live here. TN note, here referring to Guy's place. Putting aside Guy, Velzada will probably never agree. TN note, Velzada is Feldera's frosty sister, in case anyone forgot. If handled poorly, Dino might even be killed. The only one Velzada acknowledges is Leon alone. It's going to be unexciting to lose a precious pawn, so he chose to write a simple letter of introduction. But there was a report from Dino. Several demon lords has joined as his subordinate, and the Imperial Army consisting of almost 1 million soldiers massacred, he said. TN note, kanji says Demon Duke. This was clearly abnormal. The world has recognized himself and Rudra as the chess players in this domination game, yet there was an irregular that disrupted this balance. Humans to Rudra, monsters to Guy, each with their own ownership. Each also had a single dragonkind as a partner, with the last one Feldera as a free-for-all target to add some thrills into the game. And yet another balance breaker apart from Feldera has occurred, an irregular. Fortunately its affiliation is the same as himself, a demon lord. As the strongest after Miram and himself, the demon lord with the ultimate skill gluttonous King Beelzebub, Rimuru. It must be incorporated into his side no matter the cost. There was a need for it to become his pawn. It appears the waiting time for it to grow is no longer necessary. If Rudra destroyed it then it'll be left aside, but the situation wasn't so simple. If it cooperates then all is well. If not, crush. Meeting the other part once sounds like a good idea, so he thought, and Guy began to take action. Era, doesn't that sound like fun? He nodded and asked Velzada. You want to come too? He asked in return. Velzada's sparkly chilling mysterious diamond blue eyes stared at Guy. Yes, indeed. It's been a long time since I've last met up with my brother. A cold smile on her face. And so it's decided. The two left the nearby Shirokori castle behind with ease, and flew in the land of howling blizzards, and frigid cold. The tyrant has taken flight, aiming for the country of monsters Tempest. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 166, A coup d'état in the Imperial Capital. Having received Yuuki's orders, Kaguri had immediately jumped into action. On that very day, 300 of Yuuki's personal troops had gathered in a mansion in the Imperial Capital. A mansion was easy to prepare with the funds left over from the Freedom Association days, and with the Damrata's connections. The ones who gathered had absolute fealty towards Yuuki. It didn't work when it was unstable children, but when the summoned happened to be adults, they were unknowingly put under the curse of domination. Those summoned through the unique skill, Summoner became, in effect, subordinates of Yuuki against their wills. Yuuki wasn't the only one doing this, however. All the summoning done in this world had similar practices. On a side note, sometimes, there are those who try to summon devils because they think they can put them under the fealty curse. Aside from humans, or angels, or spirits with weak egos, spirit forms like devils, who have strong egos, will often resist the curse. There are such arrogant fools who delve into the forbidden summoning arts putting too much confidence in their skills. Yuuki's coup d'état has been in preparation for quite some time now, so the people gathered were vaguely aware of what was going on. A majority of them were otherworlders who had shown talent in the military. They had climbed up the ranks relying on their own power. Having no loyalty towards the empire from the beginning, there were those among them who were excited at the prospect of a revolution. There were others who were mixed breeds created by mating strong individuals of different races repeatedly, and still others who were slave warriors that Yuuki had procured. In the empire, might was right, so given the chance, even a slave could take hold of his freedom. The monster slaves gathered by Damrata were also present. Such a thing would be preposterous in the Western nations, but the empire simply had a different set of values. For this reason, Yuuki had ordered the battle-oriented monsters that showed potential to be brought into the empire. Breaking it down, 30 otherworlders, 50 devils, 100 mixed-breed warriors, 100 slave warriors. In the mixed corps, they were the ones on the stronger side. With otherworlders, devils, and officer-class individuals, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that they would be members of the mixed corps headquarters. Ascending the stairs from a large open lobby, they arrived at the large room built for conferences on the second floor. As all of them had sat down, Yuuki and Kaguri, and finally Damrata entered the room. "Hey, everyone. So today, I think we'll kill the Emperor. The enemy are 100 Royal Knights, change, Emperor's personal guards - Royal Knights. Some of you have already fought with them in hopes of raising your ranks, so you know they're pretty strong. But we have 100,000 troops on our side, so it's a no-brainer. I just got the report that the mixed corps have successfully stationed themselves on the outskirts of the capital. We'll close off the 4 gates, and erect a force field to prevent escape. And when that's done, we'll be scorching the place, and broil the Emperor. Easy, right? So today, you can fight the knights without holding back at all. They will likely have legendary tier gear on them, so capturing them alive is probably impossible. So don't worry and go kill them. Any questions?" Yuuki casually talked about killing the Emperor as if discussing the weather. The ones who gathered now had eyes full of ambition. Their hopes becoming reality, they were ecstatic with being able to finally take action. It was now time. On the outskirts of the capital, Black Knight Claude had secretly gathered the mixed corps troops. They were positioned there over the course of several days so that nothing would seem unnatural. Just moments ago, Yuuki received report through telepathy that all preparations were complete. It was proceeding smoothly. According to the plan, the mixed corps would flow in after breaking through the 4 gates, and they would supervise from the mansion. The Empire's strength was the 100 Royal Knights, and 2,000 guardsmen. And around 20,000 from the military police division. Though, the difference in power between the army and the police was very large. A difference similar to that of an adult and a child, they would only slightly slow them down. The real threat was, in fact, the Royal Knights and the 2,000 guardsmen. The mixed corps would be pit against them while they watched the movements of the knights. Then, they would target the ones who are isolated, and slowly wean out their numbers. In other words, the mixed corps would serve as bait and rampage all over the city. The Royal Knights were a threat to Yuuki, so with luck, he could turn them into pawns using overwrite. Their fealty to the Emperor would be then directed at him. For that reason too, they needed to be reeled in after biting into the bait. The troops Yuuki had gathered fell short in strength compared to the Royal Knights. But by cornering them in greater numbers, and Yuuki stepping in from that point, he could increase his number of pawns without much effort. Like that, they would not only overwhelm the Empire with numbers, but also turn their forces against them. At that point, it would be check and mate. There were no reinforcements coming for them, and rather easily, victory would draw closer. A coup d'état, I see. It'll fail, don't you think? As if pouring cold water on his head, denying Yuuki's ambitions, Damrata stated. He was a man who had a big role in building the Freedom Association in Cerberus, and had essentially become Yuuki's hands and feet. He could make calm judgments, and had a strong nose for money. Having unbelievable skill at determining the success rate of things, this statement of his was not to be dismissed. What do you mean, Damrata? Exactly what I said. Just now, they got Miranda. He took off his necklace as he spoke. It had a charm shaped like a three-headed dragon on it, but one of the heads were broken. It was a charm that all three bosses possessed, a magic item that allowed them to confirm each other's survival. The fact that this piece got broken, means that Miranda was killed. Which implies that the whole plan was leaked to the Emperor. And now that failure is all but confirmed, going through with this plan is plain suicide. Damrata explained calmly. He had spoken in his usual tone, but Yuuki sensed something fundamentally different about it. Damrata's words stirred doubt into the hearts of those who had gathered. Their faces that were brimming with confidence and excitement, now showed anxious expressions. Yuuki looked at them with an unsatisfied expression and... Then we can just attack before they're ready, right? He spat out. If their plan was leaked just recently, they had the upper hand in acting first. It would be out of order, but they would have to kill the Emperor first. And if push came to shove, Yuuki would go personally. As if denying Yuuki's countermeasures. It's too late. You're severely underestimating the Information Bureau, Yuuki-sama. Your plan is too naive. This is not a children's game. Damrata replied, casting a cold gaze at Yuuki. Bastard, you dare show Yuuki-sama such disrespect. Infuriated, Kaguri thrust a hand towards Damrata's neck. But Damrata gently gripped her wrist, and, manipulating the flow of power, directed the force back into her wrist. The force converged into a singular point, and the bones in Kaguri's wrist easily broke. Goo. Kaguri groaned, and took some distance from Damrata, rubbing her wrist. Yuuki narrowed his eyes in confusion. Damrata was certainly a master of martial arts, and his offensive strength was high. But, Kaguri was an ex-demon lord, and wasn't someone so meager so as normal humans could pose a challenge. As far as Yuuki was concerned, it was impossible for Damrata to win against Kaguri. Damrata, are you betraying me? Yuuki asked quietly. Depending on this answer, Damrata needed to be killed then and there. Betray? You say strange things. I have already been cooperating and have sworn loyalty to you to a certain extent. But I only did this temporarily. That would be that case, yes? There's a saying, the rich have many friends. Originally, the end of money brings the end of the relationship. In my case, I was being useful to the Emperor by being useful to you. Damrata's cold voice echoed. The tension in the room was thick, and no one raised a word. Damrata was looking down on Yuuki's friends in the army who stank of greed. But that Damrata had brilliantly gave the fearsome Kaguri a run for her money. Their impression of him changed drastically. I see. You were planning to use me from the beginning. Can't deny that. It's something like a specialty of mine. Yuuki now understood everything. Whether it was the establishment of the Freedom Association, or Cerberus, everything went according to the Empire's plans. The organization known as Cerberus was, originally, a base created with people that Damrata had gathered. It worked as an intelligence division in the Western nations. It collected secrets, and sorted them by usefulness. It dealt mainly with nobles to get a hold of their weaknesses. When the Empire decided to take over the West, these secrets would become power. Power enough to fell countries solely through blackmail. Damrata, who was entrusted with carrying all this out, had set his sights on Yuuki. Damrata would stand out too much as himself. Yuuki thus acted as a beacon that attracted all the attention. In other words, Yuuki had been used when he wanted to do the using. A tiny flame of anger was born in Yuuki's heart. It was a flame called humiliation. So you're the Empire's dog. Good job on deceiving me. But to reveal it all by yourself right here, wasn't it a bit premature? Exactly, I'm going to end you here and now, Damrata. Kaguri agreed with Yuuki. and she launched towards Damrata, still in rage. Being an ex-demon lord, her speed surpassed that which humans could follow. Damrata was supposed to have no way of reacting. Too slow. Easily deflecting both sets of Kaguri's sharp demonic clawed hands thrust towards him, Damrata closed their distance in a natural movement. He didn't let down his guard just because he had broken her wrist earlier, and attacked mercilessly. For monsters, a fracture could be healed in moments. One had to have that mindset, or else they wouldn't survive long in this world. Having gotten close enough, he applied his hands softly to the center of Kaguri's chest. Spiral penetration break. Tien, Raisin Shinto Yabu. He released the power accumulated in his hands into the enemy. It was a secret technique that destroyed the enemy's body with its explosive penetrative power. Damrata's body glowed thinly, as if emitting a concentrated battle spirit. Gufu. Kaguri fell into a crouch, vomiting blood. Her legs lacked the strength to even stand. Being a drifting spirit, Demon Lord Kazarim didn't have the power to maintain a spiritual body. It was impossible as he wasn't a spirit form. Which is why, he relied on a body of flesh. To compensate, he transformed the body on the elven female he possessed similar to that of a demon, and trained it to be peerless in strength. Yet, she was disabled by a single hit from Damrata. I am possible. A mere human can't possibly dash. Kaguri cried out while spitting out the blood overflowing from her mouth. A demon lord being surpassed by a human should not be done. Kaguri glared at Damrata with such thoughts. Fu, you should think more before you act, lady. This is why you lost against Demon Lord Leon. And also, you, being a yet unawakened demon lord, can't even hope to beat me. Even that old man called Hakura was much stronger. I wanted to go all out on the old man, but unfortunately, I missed my chance. Compared to that, you, lady, aren't worthy of my full strength. Sure, demons are unbelievably strong, but humans aren't as stupid as you think. There are of course fools who rely only on their skills, but with the right training, one can endlessly get stronger. Like me. Saying so, he looked away from her. Other worlders could be killed by snapping their necks just like anyone else. Having uneventfully killed quite a number of them, Yuuki was admittedly one of the strong. Damrata possessed a unique skill that hid his presence and muffled his movements, specialized in assassination. It was called Killer. Being dedicated to killing, it was an almost invincible skill. He was an aberrant who liked killing too much, and with help from Yuuki's skill, had returned to a calmer, normal state of mind. But Damrata could easily revert back. See, relying on skills too much will leave you vulnerable at critical moments. If you don't train your body more, you guys are all useless. The gathered ones, who never faced ridicule from any trainer, were being spoken to as if they were utter weaklings, and couldn't help but get angry. All of them reddened, and directed their murderous intent at Damrata. Damrata felt no responsibility for the feelings of those he had betrayed. Even if he had been a boss they looked up to as if worshipping. If it was by order of the emperor, he could even kill his own blood relatives. Kagurazaka Yuuki was, for Damrata, a fine master. He had a naive childlike thought process, but also had a cold-blooded outlook. He had good ability to analyze, which Damrata was fond of. He was different from the ex-demon lord crouching on the floor. For that very reason. Royals Knights No. 2, Damrata wanted to finish him with his own hands. That was Damrata's final act of loyalty towards Yuuki. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 167, The Segregation Point of the Era. Sorry for the late release, things kinda happened, it's been depressing. Putting that aside, enjoy? P.S. From now on I'll be putting a % next to any chapter I'm working on, so instead of Lion-san's progress bar you can use that as reference. 167. The Segregation Point of the Era. 10. On the roads within the forest at the outskirts of the imperial capital, 100,000 individuals have gathered. Despite the number of people gathered, there was an overwhelming silence in the area. This is proof that each and every soldier here is very well trained. In order to relay the situation to Yuuki via telepathy, The Black Knight Claude has silently left the area alone. The vice commander of the Mixed Corps, he had came here in order to contact Yuuki. That's why, nobody thought Claude taking action alone was strange. Due to Yuuki's override ability, at one point Claude had his allegiance to Leon overridden. However, thanks to Chloe currently Claude is restored back to normal. But, after having his heart taken once, Claude has always been troubled about something in his mind. TN note, the mental heart I guess? What is the heart? As expected, can the heart really be overridden simply with the use of abilities? And, can such a thing really be permitted? Leon is a great man, whom he has taken care of since his youth. He was the strongest man Claude had even known, he was his target of worship and longing. And towards that Leon, even thought he only betrayed him for an instant, to Claude that was an unforgivable stain. However, at this current situation he must continue to act loyal to Yuuki. If he starts to suspect and the fact his heart has been restored has leaked out, things are going to take a turn for the worse. After receiving treatment from Chloe, he has been training his heart with all he has, but he doesn't have any confidence in his training. Although he sworn to endure the effects next time, it's uncertain whether it would succeed. He feared the chances of having his heart overridden again seemed higher. Therefore, he must be careful. In order not to arouse Yuuki's suspicion, he must pay close attention to his own actions. Leaving the group, he took a breather. That Claude had been called out by a voice without a presence. Have you finished contacting? At first he was shocked within, but after identifying the owner of the voice he understood. Chloe Obel. She was a Bishoujo with mysterious silvery black hair. It would be hard to imagine from her appearance alone, but she was an existence with horrifying capabilities. With a single glance, Yuuki had claimed her to be the world's strongest. It's Chloe Donoha. There are no problems, I was able to contact Yuuki. But does that guy really intend to initiate a coup d'etat? It doesn't feel like there are that many merits in doing so. That's true. I can't ever seem to understand what's he thinking, it's probably useless thinking about it. Did he ask Chloe Dono for something too? I seem to be his insurance. Just in case something happens. Is this related to the 3 command chances issue? Claude was wondering whether Chloe fell under the category of being bound to the 3 commands, wishes. Was the reason Chloe smoothly following Yuuki's orders due to the wishes? Claude often pondered. When he finally asked. As long as I don't reject it from the bottom of my heart, it wouldn't be considered a wish. So Yuuki's first instruction of not bearing hostility towards him was excessive. Chloe answered with a wry smile, feeling complicated. Isn't she a little too kind? So Claude thought, but this is the one thing he couldn't say out loud no matter what. From his perspective, since she tried helping him nullifying the dominance curse by rewinding time, this was something he couldn't possibly say. Since someone of Chloe's caliber couldn't manage to do so, no matter how much Claude tries it would be impossible for Claude to understand. Feeling a sense of disgust towards having his heart dominated, Chloe's probably thinking, did he really retain his ego? Is Chloe Dono not partaking in the coup d'etat? Yeah. Causing an upheaval in the imperial capital doesn't seem to be the purpose, so the vice commanded has intruded that civilian causalities are lowered to a minimum. I'll just take this chance and blend into the darkness. Does Claude-san think of this as a chance? Chance. To return to Big Brother Leon's side, I believe this is a great chance. I see, Claude understood. But taking advantage of this opportunity, this was a good opportunity to fake death in the midst of battle. Under these chaotic circumstances, Yuuki wouldn't have the leisure to investigate a single subordinate too deeply. After the chaos subsided, even once he realized Claude's death was faked, by then he would have returned to Leon's side. Understood. Thank you for the advice. I shall use this method to return to Leon's side. Saying so, Claude used the clone jutsu Shadow Knight. A fake clone with an identical appearance, this is the Shadow Knight. 30% 1-2. Its strength is about 30% of the original, and could continuously remain active for 12 hours. Since the consciousness is linked, it's also great ability for spy activates, it's perfect for this situation. After confirming the Shadow Knight has returned to the group, Claude had bowed to Chloe. Then, he began moving towards Leon immediately. This incident had actually in turn saved Black Knight Claude's life, but the person in question doesn't know about this until later on. Following up after Claude has disappeared, Chloe's presence has vanished without a trace. She has received a request from Yuuki, unable to refuse, she could only accept. But rather than leaving the battlefield that is the Imperial capital, she blended into its darkness. And so, the curtains of the tragedy that will soon be called the Crimson Lotus Purge has raised. To begin with, the Scorching Dragon, Felgurindo had no interest in the game between Guy and Rudra. Just fight head-on and decides who reigns at the top, she thought. However, if she must give her honest opinion, it would be considerably difficult for Rudra and herself to best the duo of Guy and her sister, White Ice Dragon, Velzadua. Guy's the strongest demon lord without a doubt, and her sister's compatibility with herself isn't any good. If sister and Felgurindo fought in battle, worst case scenario they would end in mutual defeat, both annihilated. The possibility of things going well is very low. Or rather, 0% even. Heat and frost have contradicting natures. In a word, acceleration and deceleration. If they battled, rather than one of them surviving in the end, they would both fall. In other words, either they'd both be destroyed, or they're both unable to battle, one of only two results. If her sister and her are evenly matched, the deciding factor lies between Guy and Rudra's battle. If that's the case, regardless of the amount of ultimate abilities possessed, Rudra, who's a human, will always have the disadvantage. That's why, even thought she seriously wants a head-on confrontation, she understood that will only lead to a high chance of defeat on this game board. Ah, this is so annoying. That was her true feelings. For Felgurindo, who hated strategizing, elaborate strategizing, and preparing for hundreds of years was something she's bad at. That's why she left it all to Rudra, and she'd simply follow orders. However, this was hardly interesting. She was dissatisfied with her current situation of being unable to rampage as she pleased. Meanwhile, she was envious of her trouble-loving brother Storm Dragon Feldura, which has only helped her accumulate more stress. That child really likes to act as he pleases, but this time, unexpectedly he didn't appear. 100. The other day, Emperor Rudra had received a report from Kirshna, informing him of the complete annihilation of the Imperial Army's forces of almost 1 million. That really isn't anything significant in itself, but what's extraordinary was that the reason had nothing to do with Feldura. According to Felgurindo's initial predictions, she would have never imagined that her festively violent brother would miss out on this opportunity. Although she heard he was cooperating with Demon Lord Rimuru, her brother isn't the listening type. Assuming that, there was something that would have made her brother Feldura complacent, and Demon Lord Rimuru was able to prepare such a thing. TN note, probably a pile of manga? Thinking from that perspective, she tried imagining something that would persuade Feldura. But, nothing came up. This is bullshit. This time, I'll probably just ask him directly. In the end, she gave up thinking about it. At that time, Felgurindo had received a request. Emperor Rudra. Felgurindo, you're probably really bored by now too, right? Want to go all out for the first time since forever? He asked. She jumped at the offer immediately. Her targets, the foolish militants in the Empire who dare rebel against the Emperor. The Emperor's target would be the foolish mastermind behind the coup d'état. And then, Demon Lord Rimuru. The one who raised the Imperial Army, the new Demon Lord. Banding together with strong individuals as well as her brother Feldura, she would most likely be met with resistance. Yeah, alright then. Even though I don't intend on taking revenge for your pawns, I'll just think of this as cleaning up and getting rid of Demon Lord Rimuru while I'm at it. She'll just turn the fools into a bloodbath for warm-up, and then crush the newcomer Demon Lord Rimuru while she's on a roll. After her rampage, she'll pave the way for Emperor Rudra. If she did so from the beginning, there wouldn't be any pointless waste, but then the quality of soldiers wouldn't increase. Allowing them to gain as much experience as possible, procuring Holy Knight class individuals, in order to ensure such a one-sided trampling never happens again. TN note, Kanji says Guard Knight, and Katakana says Royal Knight. If Demon Lord Guy Crimson is the foe, there's no point having millions of weak soldiers. But, the army he sent out with so much effort, only to have them reaped was unpleasant. Even the time when Feldera annihilated them was better than this. That's because a number of those who returned alive managed to evolve resentment, fear, and despair. However, those who haven't lost hope will be able to break out of their shell and advance toward that step. Even so, the situation this time is different. There wasn't a single survivor. Even Krishna, who gave the report, contact with him was cut shortly after. After having a taste of despair, and coming in contact with one of the world's strongest existence, humans would gain the possibility to evolve. In other words, they really died a pointless death this time. Other than Krishna, there were also a number of royal knights who were mixed in, contact with all of them were lost. If it's someone like Krishna, when pushed to the limit, he thought they would have used myth-class equipment, and survived. TN note, even though is simply myth, the kanji is separated into myth, and class. Hence why I always let it as myth class rather than simply myth etc. So even if things were a letdown it would still be fine. Not a single person evolved in this expedition, it was a complete failure. That's why, in regards to Demon Lord Rimuru, Rudra had some speculations. When his forces of 1,000,000 sent out after calculating their strength was completely wiped out, and when the report of no survivors came, Rudra became hesitant future developments in an instant. For the first time, Felgurindo had sought out in Emperor Rudra's figure. Rudra immediately began collecting his thoughts. I think we should think of disposing Ruminus first. With communications between demon lords currently sparse, now is a good time. If Ruminus's ultimate ability awakens any further, she will become a hassle to destroy. I don't think Guy would mobilize Velzido just to save Ruminus. Can I leave this to you? He described his plans. Felgurindo immediately showed she understood, with a convinced look on her face. Since they've been interacting for such a long time, they could more or less grasp each other's thoughts. So, after I deal with those guys initiating a coup, it's fine if I kill Ruminus, right? Ah, Gradam is currently headed there. Since there's a transfer magic formation installed on the airship, go join him. Era? So is it okay if I killed Ruminus? I'd thought you'd definitely want her alive though. Phew phew phew. That's because the soul refining system has been developed well. Using actual war experience as a way to train humans, but I'd never thought of using threats to cultivate. However, since the procuring method Holy Knights is unique, as long as we control that place then there's no problem. Understood. So we let her live to continue cultivating more. However, she really hid herself well. Who would have thought she would live in seclusion in the divine capital? Indeed. Thanks to that it took a long time to discover her. I thought she would have moved into subspace and lived in a false space. Well, it's probably because your brother, Feldera, previously destroyed Luminus's Night Rose Castle, causing her to stay vigilant. That guy's always been quite a thorn to me. He's seriously annoying. Yufu. Then, if I run into him this time, I'll give him a good punishment. Towards Felgurindo as she was heading out laughing. Alright, I forgot to mention this. There's no need to kill off the idiotic rebels, just torture them. When the angels descend, I was thinking about using them as vessels. Even though angels are spiritual life forms, it might help if they reincarnate with flesh. Ah, I see. So you're imitating Guy allowing his demons to reincarnate then putting them to work. It'd be great if it works. Well, neither letting them live nor die, we'll just leave them there unable to escape. Leave it to me. After being told that evil plot, she nodded cheerfully as she walked towards the outside world. After hundreds of years she once again unleashes her full power. Yuuki and Damurita are currently in a heated fist fight. When Damurita was suppressing Yuuki's subordinates, Yuuki declared he'd fight him himself. There are several reasons for this. Firstly, he noticed Damurita's abnormal strength. Arios, who had awakened his unique skill assassin, was rather powerful amongst Yuuki's subordinates. TN note, there is someone called Arios I think, not sure how that works though. Since he wasn't allowed to kill his opponent within the corpse ranking battles, thus this skill was sealed. Therefore, even thought he wasn't a vanguard, in terms of ability alone he was someone at the higher echelons. In fact, even when compared with the royal knights that had blended in with the subordinates, he was even above them. To be able to kill someone with a single strike, if Damrata makes light of it, things will get dangerous. Another reason. Not to be over-reliant on his abilities, and to train his own body, he wanted to understand these words. These words are certainly advices. However, killing intent directed here from Damrata can clearly be felt. If he's going to kill, he'll kill without giving any advice. This is the kind of man Damrata was. This paradox is worrying. That's why, in order to feel Damrata's thoughts, he himself wanted to become his foe. Yes, Damrata could possibly be. Their two fists crossed paths. They've exchanged blows several times. Carried out with superhuman moves, it looked as if each Kumite move was choreographed, like a polished exchanging of martial arts. With an unchanging face, Yuuki warded off the hidden fist aimed for his vitals. He parried with his palms, and retaliated with a hand chop. As if expecting that chop, Damrata withstood it, started rotating his body and delivered a double kick. He then lowered his body straight down on the spot and performed a leg sweep. Yuuki sensed this, jumped, rotated, and aimed a kick straight towards Damrata's head. However, that kick could only hit air, for Damrata has already retreated into the distance. It was a battle between two skilled experts. Yuuki's abilities specialized in depriving. That's why, when they exchanged fist, every time they came in contact, Yuuki would steal a bit of energy. Be it magic power or physical strength, this would be dependent on the target opponent. The stolen energy could be converted for his use. This was a special effect of the ultimate skill Avarice King Mammon. This was the route creating too many advantageous situations for Yuuki. However, Yuuki's mind harbors frustrations. One of Avarice King Mammon's abilities, over right palm, has been walled off. TN note, kanji says mind steal palm. He thought he could have easily won simply by overwriting the information on the opponent's soul and earn their loyalty, but his thinking was too naive. While most would usually be cautious about the effect range of his ultimate skill, he thought he would attack him from a distance, but Damrata ended up engaging him in close combat. If Yuuki's abilities can't bring about the deciding factors, then this was advantageous to Damrata, who was known as the Fist Saint. While the opponent would have difficulty resisting the life-draining life-steal palm and over right palm, they weren't suited to dealing finishing blows. Simply draining a bit of energy took everything he got. An ultimate skill must be defended against with another ultimate skill. Judging from the perspective of this principle, that would mean Damrata is a person with a hidden ability. Yatter. Could it be? I didn't think Damrata-san had an ultimate skill. Did you have it from the beginning? It's borrowed. Of course, I was already in possession of it when I first met Yuuki-sama. Borrowed? What does that mean? Exactly what it means. A human's body can't handle the burdens of an ultimate skill's energy. Under normal circumstances, awakening is impossible. That's probably why the modified body of an otherworlder is needed. But, at the end of one's training, people will evolve. Their race aside, there is certainly change. In other words, from a human to a sage. The result of evolution rather than natural birth, each sage is connected to the world. Then, those who have awakened towards becoming a sage are said to be those who have been selected as qualified by the emperor. Emperor Rudrasama, in order to allow his subordinates to awaken into a sage, had often waged war. To those who have awakened as a sage, he bestows them the ultimate enchant alternative. TN note, kanji of alternative, reads proxy. After his explanation, Damrata looked at the individuals who spectated his battle with Yuuki. Therefore, you lot who only rely on your abilities will never be truly strong, he said. Within his gaze, it feels as if he is expecting something. Looking at Damrata, Yuuki was convinced he had the answer to the question he seeked. And that's Damrata's sworn loyalty to Yuuki still persists. In other words, due to the powers granted by the emperor, he could no longer turn against the emperor. His over right palm being walled off was all natural. Due to the dominating effects of the emperor's ultimate skill, it comes with absolute soul protection. And now, this revealing this information means he doesn't plan to keep Yuuki. At the same time, if you were to further observe, you would realize that leaking this information also serves as proof of Damrata's loyalty to Yuuki. It should be noted that even though loyalty towards the Emperor has long been ingrained, yet Damrata still chose Yuuki. So it would seem. If that's the case, you could interpret this as the ultimate skill avarice King Mammon being superior to the Emperor's strength. Yuuki determined. I see. Now my question is answered. Then isn't it about time we end this? Damrata nodded. They both took their stances, and prepared to strike. Aiming for the instant Yuuki gathered his strength. What are you playing at, Damrata? Get rid of that irregular already, have you forgotten His Majesty's orders? Hearing this cold voice, Yuuki felt a sharp pain at his chest. Without a sound, blood erupted from a small hole at his back. It was obviously a fatal wound. That one shot destroyed his heart. Ugh, you bastard. Yuuki-sama. Spitting out from his blood, Yuuki looked back. And fell. The crouching Kagari darted forward in an instant, and caught Yuuki. However, she was aware that activating healing magic had no effect and was shocked. The bullet shot through Yuuki's back destroyed his heart, causing a miniature explosion. This explosion was mixed with cursed destruction agents, affecting the blood in his entire. This was the effect of the special bullet fired from a small pistol necrosis bullet. Kaudo first shot a bullet that destroys magic barriers or curse-type defenses remove bullet. The instant the defensive effects were destroyed, the main necrosis bullet was shot. This was a bullet that could kill dragons. Even the undying attributes of the undead would have their magic circuits destroyed by the cursed agents and ultimately result in death by destruction. If it hits, even a spirit light form like a archdemon could potentially be slain with one shot. If you failed to resist, you'll definitely die. Yuuki, who was shot from behind, wasn't even given the chance to resist and died. Lieutenant Koda tucked away the guns on hand and slowly walked over. He just instantly shot 2 bullets out of his pistol, however, since bullets weren't shot with gunpowder, so there's no need to pay attention to maintenance. He's just used to doing so over time. Isn't this, Lieutenant Kondo, it's been a long time. However, wouldn't you allow me to do the final honors to Yuuki-sama with my own hands? There's no time to play around. His Majesty is waiting. Get this over with already. With cold words, he gave the signal. 300. Receiving the signal, several soldiers entered the hall that can house 300 individuals. They were solders affiliated with the Intelligence Bureau. No 06 no .105. However, they're in fact actually the Emperor's Royal Knights, they're the strongest 5 no .610. No .01 no .02. In addition to that, Number 1 Royal Knight Corps Leader Lieutenant Kondo and Number 2 Vice Leader Damrata. 300. They were a ridiculous battle power that could easily massacre even Yuuki's 300 elite subordinates. Damrata seemed like he wanted to say something, but closed his mouth and gave up. Since he was His Majesty the Emperor's loyal, he understood the actions of Lieutenant Kondo. Fairness doesn't exist in battle, victory is justice. Damrata understood this, so he isn't qualified to complain about it. Damrata quickly changes his feelings, and quickly began taking action. 3. In 3 minutes, all the rebel members within the room have been dealt with. Kagari and Ko, who were dyed with anger, were easily dealt with like twisting the arms of a baby. Lieutenant Kaudo was strong, abnormal even from Damrata's point of view. Everyone gathered here have been bestowed by His Majesty the Emperor the ultimate enchantment alternative. Therefore, to begin with, the only one they needed to be wary of was Yuuki alone. To be one-sidedly trampled by those who ranked highly in the ranking battles leaves behind an unusual ghastly feel. However, with his emotions oblivious to the obvious results, Kondo ordered the retreat. Lieutenant, what should we do with this guy? No 06. Royal Knight No .06 Mureza points towards Yuuki. TN note, kanji here says guard, but it's essentially a shortened version of. He is regardless an otherworlder who has obtained an ultimate skill with by himself. If they left him lying around, it may cause problems. Or so they considered. Certainly Kondo's necrosis bullets destroys all curse and magic effects. With the root of power destroyed, and the soul bombarded with destruction agents, it's unlikely he'll be revived. However, isn't it best if they still didn't let their guards down? Mureza thought. Kodu heard the inquiry, and quickly fired another shot at Yuuki. Let's go. He walked out without even confirming the results. The shot bullet eraser bullet activates in accordance to Kodu's will. 3. After 3 seconds, Yuuki's flesh began to crumble, and completely destroyed. Mureza gave a convinced nod, and left the vicinity following Kodu. The same goes for the other knights. Damrado looked towards where Yuuki once was for a moment, but with nothing he could do he turned and followed them out. With Yuuki now dead, his only master now is His Majesty the Emperor alone. On that day, despite it being midnight, the sky was dyed red as scarlet blood-colored rain fell. Though the subjects in the imperial capital spoke to each other about scary rumors, none held any truth. But, that was the last they could have the leisure for such rumors. The era's starting to change in a big way, and the imperial capital will soon be engulfed by its ripples. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 168, Guy? Crimson. The victory ceremony ended without a hitch. There were some who had evolved in unexpected ways, and others whose evolutions were put on hold, but none who had gone berserk. All in all, a success I'd say. But we didn't have time to relax. We were still at war after all. The troops that invaded Tempest were all taken care of, but there were still the aircrafts coming in from the north by the sea or rather, air route. I've already contacted Ruminas and Hinata. I'll just turn the tables on them. Ruminas had declared. I didn't think that she would go to that much trouble just for humans. But the Council and the Holy City Rubrius were in a cooperation pact with us. A northwestern army was stationed around Rubrius acting at the Western Nations Interception Force. In other words, Rubrius, being on the western edge, was the best place to position those troops. In addition, many Holy Knights were deployed by the Religion HQ, and Rubrius also had its own forces. Hinata, who was head of the committee, and Ruminas didn't show that much hostility towards each other, and in fact, the latter was probably helping out in earnest. Well, it enough just to be cooperative. Ruminas may just want to be of help to Hinata, but her reasons didn't matter. After contacting Hinata, I sent the reserve troops, who had come as out reinforcement back, to Ingratia. If they were being maintained as an army in Tempest, food and lodging costs would bury a hole in our funds. They would be swiftly deployed to Rubrius as support in case Ruminas was in a pinch. Tempest had become the convergence point between the Council and the Committee's activities, so the other countries were busy preparing. Soon enough, the majority of travelers would also flow through Tempest, but at present, Ingratia held that role. But of those traveling independently, many took the opportunity to pass through Tempest. Around a third of the soldiers and adventurers, rather than returning to Ingratia, had opted to lodge in the kingdom of Brumund and surrounding towns to see how things would play out. They couldn't move to Tempest as not many trade routes had been established yet, but they expected that this country would become the center of culture and economy in less than 2 years' time. They were wise to observe the situation. For this reason, only the armies from other countries were sent to Ingratia, as they would be deployed as reinforcements for the Northwest Army when the time came. Though, if we could expect 300 aircrafts coming fully equipped, that would mean around 100,000 troops. Considering logistics, filling them up to maximum capacity was not probable. Consulting with Calgurio, aircrafts, or rather airships, he insisted could each carry 400 troops. A minimum of 50 mages were necessary for a ship to be operable. The transport of the Beast Corps was left to an individual called Major General XAMD. In all likelihood, the remaining of the Aerial Fighter Legion members would likely be scientists. Most of the elite mages were deployed in the invasion force in hopes of ousting Felderadano. Therefore, including some extras, the ships should have around 100 mages each. 30,000 for operations, 30,000 beast troops, and 30,000 beasts. In total, 90,000 was the likely number of troops approaching. Also, XAMD wouldn't put the scientists on the front lines. That was what Calgurio predicted. Their plan was a simultaneous invasion, and the airships had already been deployed, so they were left in charge of themselves. Well, the prediction was probably right. If the rest were scientists, they wouldn't be of any offensive help even though they were brought along. And there would probably be a number of repairmen. 100,000 will be a piece of cake, Ruminus boasted. 300 holy knights, and Ruminus owned 400 blood knights. The blood knights were the strongest of the vampire knights who were all A-ranked themselves. They were an elite knight force. However, as they were knight class, the lowest of the aristocratic classes, their power was on par with the holy knights. Vampires, similar to demons, gained higher levels of strength with increasing classes of aristocracy. High nobility were said to have strength comparable to whole armies. They usually never came in large numbers. Having 700 troops that broke through the ceiling of power known as a rank was, in itself, a great combat force. Furthermore, there were Ruminus' protégés, the 7 celestial sages. These were apparently human paladins who had evolved. They were not vampires, but their lifespans were greatly increased, making them demi-spirit forms. Paladins were fostered in the holy city of Rubrius, and then deployed in combat by the Western Saints Church. After overcoming many of life-threatening situations, one of them would evolve in rare occasions. When humans evolved, they became sages. Heroes were yet another thing, but sages would attain strength on par with archdemons. The highest aristocratic class of vampires had combat strength comparable to the old demon lords, and Ruminus had a decent amount of them too. With 7 of these high nobles under her, if Ruminus got serious, she could easily handle this fight. Well, just in case, I opened up a transfer gate and sent her the Holy Knights, led by Arnaud, who were residing in Tempest, as support. As of late, Arnaud had been training with Albert, and had been killed many times by Apito without losing heart. He had gone to take Apito's abuse again and again, so much that one would worry if he went and developed any weird fetishes. But thanks to that, couldn't he ascend into that sage thing now? His swordsmanship already being good enough to hold its own against archdemons, ascending would take him to Albert levels of strength. By the way, as for Albert himself, he had died a martyr while on the brink of sagehood, but becoming a death paladin, he attained monstrous strength. The method was different, but basically, he got powers comparable to a sage. On top of that, his magic power had cultured for over 1,000 years. Along with Adelman, and under the effects of holy demonic reversal, they could ascend from sage to saint class and attain sacred power. To be honest, it was a rather non-standard power-up. Albert had led Arnaud peer into the ways of true mastery, and was clearly better than the latter in swordsmanship. His 1,000-year training had resulted in extreme specialization in a single art. Like that, I received a confident reply from Ruminus, and didn't worry too much about the matter of support. And with that out of the way, the victory ceremony was done under a clear conscience. The other side weren't done yet, and here we were relaxing, but there was no need to think about what-ifs. Even time-wise, we had a lot of leeway, but anyway, the ascension rituals all ended successfully. Now, it was the time for each of them to work on truly getting a hold of their new powers. Kahahaha. I'm glad it went well. I'll head back to the control room now. Yeah, me too. Feldera and Ramaris went back to the control room with jolly faces. Hey, that's a place we used during the war, and not a playroom, you know? It's true that we're at war now, but these guys just wanted to mess with the large screen to look for places they wanted to go play in. The surveillance magic was low cost, and was continuously activated. It wasn't much of a problem, so I made it so that anyone could easily use it. While it didn't show every part of the world, it had quite the range. Those two had recently been enjoying the scenery from different parts of the world using this magic. After the war is over, let's go have fun, is what I had said before, which triggered this behavior. They were carefully researching what places to go beforehand. A good comparison would be, as if doing a field survey before going on a trip. These two had been living for so long, yet hadn't properly experienced the world. They were looking forward to it much more than I was. Well, they're having fun, so it's all good. Okay. I'll join you guys later, I said as I saw them off. Geez, I guess I'm going to have to properly guide their research. It's because I feel responsible as their guardian. It is certainly not me also wanting to have fun. Feldera and Ramiris went back into the labyrinth, and the executives also went back after their salutations. Some of them were still desperately trying to control the powers gained from evolution, and I asked them not to rush it as I saw them off. The ones in charge of domestic affairs like Regrudo or Mio Urmils started the cleanup. I was very grateful. Mio Urmils was even managing the affairs of all the ambassadors visiting from other nations. And he didn't forget to put in a word about our planned yearly events, or about the specialty products of the labyrinth. He was a truly useful investment, and now had become an indispensable person to us. As I gave them my words of appreciation, they all smiled broadly. But then it happened. Alert. Detecting entity with high-density energy fast approaching. Arrival at this location in 3 seconds. Wisdom Lord Raphael issued an emergency alert. I hurriedly set up a force field to protect everyone here. Raphael's presence detection range is around 20 kilometers. To arrive only 3 seconds after being detected meant that it was going at an unthinkable speed. It was coming at more than Mach 20, and it wasn't possible to warn anyone verbally. Now was not time to be impressed with the insane speed. Just as I set up an absolute barrier with Covenant King Uriel, a single man descended following a shockwave. The stone floor of the arena, that was 10,000 times stronger than concrete, now had a large gash on it. What a guy! The destruction was not caused by any skills or techniques, it was simply from the impact with his body. For Demon Dukes, it was possible to ignore the laws of physics and travel at supersonic speeds without causing shockwaves, but this guy came in without using any law manipulations just because it was cumbersome. There weren't many who can afford to do something insane like this. 3 to my knowledge. Feldera, Milim, and Demon Lord Guy Crimson. Feldera was out. And Milim was also careful in her own way when she came over. I realized this later, but even the first time she came, she had tried her best to be careful. If Milim had flown over with her full strength, it would be enough to blow away any weak monsters. She may seem like a tyrant, but she had a surprisingly kind side. Well, now that Milim was also out, we're left with the last option. Sure enough, when the dust had settled, there stood the Demon Lord with blazing red hair. Demon Lord Guy Crimson. A ruler in this world probably stronger than myself. The scene was submerged in tension, and civilians like Regrudo and Mio Urmils were being evacuated by Sui's shadows. What's up with this guy? I don't wanna fight right now, okay? Yo, it's been a while, Rimuru. By the way, what the hell do you think you're doing? What am I doing? What are you doing? What can I say? Guy was just casually talking. He just suddenly came over with no reason I know of. I see, you're the type who cares for their underlings. Well, sorry about that. And napalm burst. As he said some words of apology, Guy suddenly shot out a heat explosion type magic. The infernal flames swelled into the shape of a dragon and weaved into the direction of the ones who were closing in on Guy from behind him. Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera. The dragons split into 3, and entangled the girls. Unbelievably, the Demon Dukes who had strong resistance to magic could not defend against Guy's attack. Eating through multiple layers of magic barriers, the infernal dragons dealt decisive damage to all 3 of them. Though I myself am also able to do it, casting this strong a magic without any incantations somehow didn't sit well with me. Awawa. That's surprising. The last attack didn't kill them, meaning, they're Demon Dukes. Are there still more of those in the underworld, or have they evolved here? Well, it's fine. Demon Dukes are stronger than unawakened Demon Lords. But the awakened Demon Lord presences I felt a while ago, what's up with those? Ignoring the 3, who lay on the ground having failed to defend against his magic, Guy spoke. Are you kidding me? He sensed the awakening from that far away? Is what I was thinking when. Solution. If connected to the voice of the world, an instant's awakening can be sensed from any location. I was reassured with Wisdom Lord Raphael San's words. So that also meant that when someone attains an ultimate skill. Solution. It is possible. However, sensing may not be possible when in possession of multiple ultimate skills. I see. I had easily sense it when Yuuki got one, so that must be the reason. I kind of wanted to be informed of these kinds of things, but it seems Wisdom Lord Raphael's policy was to only answer when asked. Ruminas also seemed to possess an ultimate. However, the type of power couldn't be determined without collecting information about it or seeing it directly. I thought that Guy somehow found out about my ultimate skills, but hiding them was actually impossible. So if there was an ultimate skill already present, new ones would not be detected. Which mean that Guy hasn't realized that I have multiple ultimates. Solution. There is no cause for concern. Gluttony King Beelzebub has been put out as the only one, and the rest are being hidden. As expected of Sensei. If we leave it to her, even Guy can be easily fooled. Though I still can't relax thinking he doesn't know. The previous conversation with Raphael only took an instant, and it was time to think about handling Guy. The three who had attacked had sensed his dangerously high power level, quickly moved to eliminate the foe. Indeed, he had an abnormal amount of high-density magic, and the arena had also been damaged. Considering that he was an unknown in both combat ability and relations, the option to preemptively strike was not necessarily unwise. They were probably thinking of me, and attacked without mercy. However, their enemy a bad matchup. The surprise attack of the three demon dukes wasn't even near the level of being a problem for Guy, the strongest demon lord. If it was me, I might have landed a hit. That aside, it was the matter of magic. What in the world do you have to do to cause magic damage to demon dukes? Solution. It is effect overlap. It seems that he is overlapping the effects of an ultimate skill with that of magic. Is that possible? It must be possible. After all, I saw the result with my own eyes. Well, if it's possible, I want to try it. Leaving that matter to Raphael-san, I needed to focus on answering Guy's question. What's going on? Well, even if you say that. Those three felt you were a danger and attacked, please forgive them. But, suddenly appearing like this, you share the blame too, you know? I'll ignore the broken floor, so no hard feeling, alright? Yeah, sorry about that. I can just teleport to places I've already been to, and it's been a while since I went flying. Put in a bit too much power, and couldn't stop. My bad. I don't really care about those three, so don't worry. Demons can't help but fight. Rather, I need you to explain the ascended ones over there, okay? I could comfortably work with those conditions. In any case, I had dodged starting a war with Guy. Or rather, I'm seriously glad he didn't come over to destroy me or something. Diablo had already sensed that Guy didn't have an enmity, but the demon dukes still needed to work on that. We didn't have the option of immediate elimination with everyone. Now they were in Diablo's care, probably already sitting in his severe lecturing course. And it's good that most others were unable to move from his pressure, or were in the labyrinth undergoing their evolution. It would be a pain, if the lot of them wanted a fight too. That being said, Shin, who's always looking for a fight, was now close beside me paying attention to Guy. She had understood the difference in power, and decided to at least act as a shield for me. That was really surprising, she has truly matured. Anyway, Guy looks to not have any blatant enmity, so everyone should be more relaxed. With that in mind, I went about guiding Guy to a guest room. Translators Rant. Well, so many things happened. With Smoggy on hiatus, I'm the only one translating this. Is it okay to leave it so something like me? Probably not. Well, I'm trying professionally as always. The next chapter? ETA. I plan to read ahead, post more spoilers, before working on the next chapter. Please don't expect much. But as always, see you in another chapter, Gao. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 169, Negotiations with Guy. Rather than standing around chatting, we decided to head inside. I guided Guy towards a VIP lounge located in Tempest. Its furnishings were chosen by Myo Yermills, and if he went on a rampage there we would incur heavy losses. Some expensive pieces of artwork had also been displayed. It was a special lounge where only the specially selected, or the highest of nobles were accommodated. Showy things aside, the arrangements also allowed one to experience elegance, simplicity, and a subdued refinement, which truly showed Myo Yurmil's sensitivity to my own tastes. To reach this level, Rigurdo and the others still needed much more experience. However, since he had said something like this place is very calming, our tastes may unexpectedly match. Returning to the topic, if Guy went on a rampage we'd handle that then. Since we had no other suitable rooms to accommodate him, we had no choice but to expect a certain level of damage. We couldn't just take the strongest of the demon lords to a common guest lounge. And whilst half resignedly guiding him, "Hey, you've got some good taste. I also happen to like this type of furnishings," Guy complimented. That was pretty surprising, as far as surprises go. I had misunderstood him as this tyrant who wouldn't have any idea of subtle elegance. No, when you think about it, even Oda Nobunaga may have perhaps had this sort of taste. Maybe, the more short-tempered and violent ones were more likely to have peaceful hearts. No, well, it might just be my mistaken impression, but it really was the right choice bringing him here. Sitting on a high-class wooden chair carved from aromatic woods, I faced Guy. On top of a small table between us, tea was served and its aroma wafted through the room. It looked simple at first glance, but a surprising amount of attention to details was put in. Yuri, pretty good. Our dimwits wouldn't be able to pull this off at all. I wonder if I should send them here for some training. Well, I'm glad you're pleased. Or rather, even since I came to this world, I've been doing nothing but what I pleased. In any case, this was the first time I had to be this careful around the other party. No, after meeting Feldera, this would be the second time. Putting aside whether or not I can win against him, I just wanted to avoid conflict as much as possible. It's too troublesome to deal with. Because it will definitely result in some broken things. Oh really? You're actually the first one I've brought here, you know. This is the highest grade parlor we have, we only bring in those who we want to make a good impression on. Ah? So you want to make a good impression on me? Yeah, that's right. Or else I couldn't call myself a good demon lord now, could I? If I had thrown away my pride, I'd be living a more or less good life snooping around in the shadows. I started with a jab. Metaphorical. I'm not gonna be pulled along with your pace, I made my statement with this intention. Depending on his reaction, I was going to have to adjust my attitude towards Guy. In any case, I had to, first and foremost, to find out the reason he came here. I suspected that he must have gotten a report from somebody, when he mentioned the demon lords. Probably, the only one who would do this was Dino. In fact, he confessed so himself. After all, any spies within the country had been completely cleared out. This I could say with full confidence. With the surveillance network spread out by Sui, and by using magic to detect malevolence, we could absolutely eliminate any kind of counterintelligence activity. In any case, since I put intelligence gathering above all else, not letting the enemy do the same thing to us was just common sense. I had used any and all means I could come up with to eliminate all spies within my country. Ahaha. Are you trying to probe me? Aren't you interesting? Oh well, let's save ourselves the trouble. I came today because I heard you're having a fight with the Empire. Ah, and as you might have expected, I heard this from Dino. He's here, right? In this place. Well, I've gotten a report from that guy, but I heard you've slain around 1 million people? And, you've also got a number of Demon Lord class subordinates under you. This reminded me about that fellow you brought in during the previous wall purchase, and that got me interested in any others you've got. Saying all that, he drank the black tea with elegant movements. The way he held himself, it was as if he was the king of some country. No, demon lords were more or less kings anyway. But, that guy. Right after declaring that he wouldn't probe, threw a straight ball. Basically, he wants to see my strength. No, isn't there more? Isn't he oddly interested in my dealings with the Empire? Indeed, I do have several Demon Lord class subordinates. The 3 you knocked out earlier are also included. Naturally, there are others. But I have no intention to tell you about all of them. In the wars of this world, isn't individual strength more important than numbers? Raising individual strength is naturally important. I see, So there are others. Or rather, are you an otherworlder? And a slime, for that matter. NN. Huh? You didn't know? I'm a slime that has retained the heart of an otherworlder, a reincarnator, you know. Seriously. Seriously. Guy and I locked eyes with each other. Or rather, he didn't know. I thought for sure something like that was well known. I had already declared this to the world, and thought it was surely passed along to the kings of each country. It may have only been my impression that all the information was known by everyone. I don't think there was any miswording, but it seems I needed to consider them not receiving any information. I'll make sure to consider it next time. Ahahahaha. Oh wow. To think such a thing could happen. No wonder you like that human form despite being a monster. You've got an impressive mimicry going, but this explains the reason behind your fixation. I see, that also explains how you are able to obtain an ultimate skill. Under normal circumstances, it isn't something you can obtain so easily. But if a soul was able to preserve its ego after world crossing, of course that soul would get much stronger. I was suspicious that Rudra was just performing some self-scripted act, but if that's the case, then I'm convinced. My bad for doubting you. Self-scripted? It was curious, so I inquired the details. The story goes, Emperor Rudra and Guy had been at odds for over 1,000 years. And in the midst of that, I had appeared. I had suddenly awakened as a true demon lord, and even obtained an ultimate skill. At first, it seemed that I had something to do with Feldera's resurrection, and they had decided to take a wait-and-see approach, but the recent conflict with the Imperial Army raised a bit of suspicion. According to Dino's report, we escaped unharmed, and the Imperial Army was massacred. At this point, Guy was thinking something was up. Against only a single demon lord, could Rudra, that's the Emperor, actually suffer such a crushing defeat? Despite wanting to wait and see, there was no point in suffering that much of a loss. It seems Rudra's purpose was likely to promote evolution amongst the survivors. He didn't care even if there were only tens of survivors. Once upon a time, when Feldera had rounded up and killed a lot of them, since some survivors managed to evolve into sages, Rudra didn't feel it was his loss. He made up an understandable reason to appease the public and trained the army by putting them in danger. Then, having the survivors evolve was the Rudra's basic combat strategy. Guy also approved the demon lords fighting each other was also for a similar reason. To clash, and then rise up as true demon lords, was the end result that he expected. That being the case, both Guy and Rudra were fighting as if playing a long game of chess. As if killing time, it was a game of patience. But, the number of survivors this time was 0. There was the problem. Guy couldn't leave alone the fact that I had gained multiple Demon Lord class subordinates, and that there was not a single survivor. The reason was simple. A meaningless military action was something Rudra would never allow. He must have acted with some kind of purpose in mind. In Dino's report, he hinted that he was of the same opinion. What the hell are you even doing, Dino? So Guy suspected a self-scripted act. Causing a grand military campaign, pretending to go to war with Demon Lord Rimuru in order to strengthen Rimuru's forces. In other words, I had betrayed Guy's Demon Lord faction, and joined Emperor Rudra. Is it? This was the gist of his doubts. Or rather, he even thought that I could be a spy sent by Emperor Rudra right from the beginning. A just recently born monster, slime, obtaining an ultimate skill, normally this would be inconceivable. Couldn't it be that due to the Emperor's instigation, it was given an ultimate skill and evolved? So he thought. To give away ultimate skills to someone, is that even possible? If it's this kind of ability, then it's not impossible. However, it's limited to only granting an inferior form. And the receiving target must be someone above a certain strength threshold, it's not to the extent of being a threat. I wanted to hear more because I had doubts, but then he just dropped a bombshell of an announcement on me. Or rather, you're the only one who'd say someone with an ultimate skill was not a threat, damn it. I wanted to shout. Perhaps, Milim's in the same category as Guy. Their perspective of things tended to be somewhat skewed. His words and appearance of enjoyably eating cake were in complete contrast. Wait a minute, he's talking about something important right now. Undeceived by his appearance, I needed to keep calm and organize this information. I stabbed the fork into my own cake whilst sorting it all out in my head. When it comes to thinking, sugar intake is very important. A self-scripted act. An hypothetical scenario here. When the Emperor released and dominated Feldera, he bestowed an ability onto a slime he found there. With the slime under the protection of Feldera, he would bring the Great Jura Forest together, and awaken as a demon lord. Guy predicted that with Feldera's help, awakening as a demon lord would be a simple matter. However, since Feldera's presence couldn't be felt for some unknown reason, he didn't completely trust this prediction. Up till there, it was fine. After that, as the slime awakened as a demon lord, Feldera had revived simultaneously. There was definitely some kind of relation between these two events. The slime, as one of the demon lords, would infiltrate Guy's faction. It would crush and devour Guy's faction from the inside, befitting the name of gluttonous King Beelzebuth. N. Beelzebub-Beelzebuth. More info below. This time, after getting a report about there being no survivors, he decided to drop by and check on the situation himself. As Emperor Rudra and Guy were at constant war, if I really were on the Emperor's side, he would simply get rid of me. Being a simple guy, he believed my words and our misunderstanding cleared, but one wrong step would have resulted in a catastrophe. Let's kill this guy off because his strength is a pain, was something he could have considered. I guess I got lucky he decided to talk first. Thanks to many little strokes of luck, the misunderstanding was cleared in the end. Now then, my story ends here. Next, shall we hear yours? Now tell me. Why are there so many of awakened demon lords here? There it is. The origin of the misunderstanding, demon lords awakening en masse. This had prompted Guy into thinking I was Rudra's pawn. For that reason, he decided to abruptly visit and ask what's going on here. Suspecting a self-scripted act, he came to find several demon lord in the making. Certainly it's a bit suspicious. Or rather, we got lucky he didn't decide to just wipe us out without hearing anything. In case I was a traitor, since he had confidence to take us all on and come out on top, I guess that's why he had room for interrogation. If Guy wasn't this strong I would easily beat him, but because he was too strong, we could resolve this through words alone. Now I just had a complicated feeling. Well, in the end we didn't need to fight, that's good. Now with that misunderstanding cleared, I needed to explain the matter of the Demon Lord awakenings. Solution. There is no problem with saying it's all through the ability of gluttonous King Beelzebuth. The heavens hath spoken. Alright, let's go with this. I've got nothing else to rely on. As expected of Raphael Sensei, a skillful dodge. Actually, I did it with my gluttonous King Beelzebuth's ability. Huh. How does that work? Wisdom Lord Raphael Sensei, how does this work? Solution. By reducing the soul's power into energy, it is possible to forcefully evolve those with the qualifications. Gluttonous King Beelzebuth has the ability to reduce the soul's power into magical energy. Naturally, those qualified are limited to Demon Lord class individuals. What did you say? Is that true? Is this true, Wisdom Lord Raphael Sensei? Solution. I have trouble comprehending why I am being called Sensei, but, it is true. Of course it's true. Huh, then, is it also possible to do it with my servants? Solution. It is possible. Ah, she answered me before I could even mentally ask that question. For some reason, I feel a little lonely. Like hey, it's getting annoying to deal with you, kind of intention. Solution. I have no such intention. This time, I felt minute traces of anger. Fanning the flames anymore will be bad. I should just let it go here. There's probably no problem. I can't tell for sure without trying, but it's probably possible. Huh, so all I need to do is prepare the souls, right? When there weren't signs of awakening even after using 10,000 souls, I thought it was pointless. You talking about your subordinate? The one during wall purges, the maid San called Misery. Ah, her and someone else, a demon duke called Hillary. Since they're both demon lord class, I think they're both sufficiently qualified. They're at the same level as the trio I went against earlier. But right now they're so weak, they're not very helpful at all. Hey now. You're saying they're at the same level as those girls, and they're worthless? This guy's judging criterion seems a little strange. So you gave 10,000 human souls to each of them. Ah, that's right. But since there were no signs of evolution, I've got a lot more lying around. I tried it on myself, but that was also pointless. So, how much do I prepare for them to evolve? Solution. 500,000 will do. It'll be fine with 500,000. Hold up. 500,000 you said, are you thinking of? Solution. Individuals named, Gerudo Adalman Testarossa Ultima Carrera. I have counted the amount necessary for those individuals in addition. That's just reckless. Does she not know fear? You're totally trying to lead the guy Crimson by the nose, aren't you? No, wait a second. This means the one he'll be after when he finds out, is me, isn't it? Solution. There are no problems. No, it's full of problems. Just now, I actually thought you were scary, you know. This is exactly why I'm scared of fearless people. Ah? So 500,000 will do? Then, even if I didn't go destroy any more towns, I probably have enough in my reserves. Ah, is that so? That's wonderful. At this point, I can only emit a dry laugh. It's more terrifying than trying to swindle a Yakuza. If I'm caught, I guess I can't complain even if I get destroyed. I didn't have any sweat to wipe off, nor did any turbulence show on my face. It's been a while since I last thought it's great to be a slime. Guy was now cheerfully eating cake. That was his third one now. It seemed he really liked it. Since negotiations had ended, I wanted to have him leave soon, but apparently someone else was coming, so we were waiting for them. Honestly, this was annoying. Just earlier, he created a gate was created and summoned Hillary and Misery from his domain. Once you had been to a certain location once, a gate could be easily created there. If I could do it, Guy couldn't possibly not do it. And, in order to grant the two summoned individuals the souls, 500,000 souls were handed over. Wisdom Lord Raphael said that we could use these without problem. I wanted to bestow it to them immediately, but... Wait. First, teach these two how to make this cake. He said. Just come and buy it. I replied. We had been glaring at each other for a while, but it didn't look like he'd give up. It can't be helped. It was against the rules, but I'll teach them the recipe. If I wanted them to go back quickly, I can't afford to be stingy. I'd make these two be able to at least make a cake. It's probably impossible to replicate it just by taste, so I'd give them the recipe too, and having them taste it once would probably make replicating it easier. Leaving aside Shin's catastrophic sense of taste, as maids these two seemed to be perfect. The tea from earlier was also good. And as they took a bite of the cake. Splendid. As expected of Demon Lord Rimuru-sama. They simultaneously gave me high praises. If you're this happy by such things, there's not need to play a boring game putting the fate of the world on the line. Though I think the world's full of even more surprises if you care to look. And in the midst of this, Ramirez suddenly burst into the room. It's terrible. Master, Feldera, went over to Rumina's place. She shouted coming in. One trouble after another. It looks like I won't be able to rest easy anytime soon. Note. Beelzebub was changed to Belzebuth. It's really the same thing, but this one aligns with the original text more. Sushi convinced me to change it and we all agreed. Apparently there's some deep reason for this, we'll find out later. Editor's Rant. Gao. Lion Mask here. Well, this is different, I didn't translate this one. Only did the TLC and edits. Let's welcome Anon to the team. Hip hip Gao. Well, he's the silent type, so I'm doing some of the talking. It seems there are 3 progress bars now. Well, this may look good, but who knows how the speed is gonna be. Currently, Sushi is the most op. He works on a phone, damn it. But the two of us won't fall behind that easily, grr. Well, I'll try to ready the next 2 chapters in the next 2 days, but don't expect the next one right after. As per my policy, each translator has a week to do a chapter unless there's problems. You can read everything in the FAQ. Well then. I've finished, so We'll see you on another chapter, Gao. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 170, A Pleasant Tea Party. Ramiris had suddenly flown into the room shouting that Feldera had gone off to Rumina's place. What the? I questioned internally, and asked for details but... Hey. What in the world is Guy doing here? Ramiris noticed Guy and started making noise. Ah? What are you doing here? As I recall, weren't you living in the dwelling of the spirit located in the Algracia Republic? Phew fun. Don't go thinking I'll always be an unemployed shut-in, K? Even I can get a job, and happen to have one right now. I'm earning a lot, and can even hire people now. Say what? Guy made a perplexed face at Ramiris boasting. To make the calm and composed Guy get worked up like that, Ramiris, you're pretty good. Guy then looked at me, and I lightly explained how Ramiris was now working here. So basically, I'm having her help me out in a lot of ways. See? Just like I said, right? Ramiris proudly made some shadow boxing poses like whoosh whoosh. Towards Guy from behind my head. Well, it's fine, but please stop using me like a shield. Ha. Getting all cheery after getting a simple job. A loner like you actually hiring people? I see you've learned some good jokes. Lead on by Guy's provocation. Why you? Ramiris unleashed her killer dropkick on him. But her fierce attack missed, and she had been easily captured. A pleasant debacle, but there were more important matters to tend to. Wait, you can do that later, but about Feldera. What's this about him going to Rumina's place? Recovering a hung upside down and struggling Ramiris from Guy, I asked. Ramiris can only concentrate on one thing at a time, so I needed to ask about the important things first. Alright. Me and Master, Feldera, were looking at different places, but suddenly, he changed the screen, and got really nervous. And flew out shouting, I am worried about Rumina's, so I'll go help. I didn't see Rumina's on the screen though. Wonder why. As expected, Ramiris' explanation was useless, and the situation remained just as vague. The only certainty was the fact that Feldera headed towards Rumina's. Geez, what a pain, I thought when. My. Has the boy run away? And I finally came over to see him too. It was a chilling voice. Without leaving so much as a speck of her presence, a single woman opened the door. Snow-white skin. Cold, bewitching blue diamond eyes. She was a dazzling beauty. However, she didn't feel alive, her beauty was like that of a doll. It is a pleasure, Demon Lord Rimuru-sama. My name is Veltsard. Or, would you be more familiar with Ice Dragon Veltsard? I am Feldera's elder sister. She said with a graceful bow. Feldera's sister? In other words, this beautiful lady is another true dragon? Since very recently, Feldera finally managed to fully control his magic leakage, but this person was controlling hers as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The fact that I couldn't sense as much as a hint of her presence itself proved her might. If not told, I would have never guessed she was a true dragon. However, her overflowing spirit, Tien, Haki, didn't leave any room to consider her a weakling. Ah, hello, I'm Rimuru. Despite this form, I'm an active demon lord. I also introduced myself, and asked Shana, who had guided her in, to ready another serving of tea. Shana worked with expertise, never losing her composure. No, not just her, everyone who worked in serving duty did their job with the same diligence no matter who the guest was. They had become professionals. You're terrible, Guy. Leaving me behind like that. Ahaha. Sorry. I forgot you were sort of bad at flying. I am not that bad, aren't you just too fast? Well, no biggie, right? You knew where I was headed, right? Well, since you were going to call Misery and Hillary anyway, you could have just waited for me too. You are right in all. But you had some good exercise after so long, so it's a win-win. Yes, whatever. Veltsard sighed as if giving up, and gracefully placed herself on a chair. The smell of trees pleased her nose. Though there was a soft sofa, the wooden chairs were also quite comfortable. Surrounded by the forest, it felt as if you were one with Mother Nature. After a sip of the tea brought by Shana. Honestly, that Feldera, he didn't have to run away. She complained. I wouldn't think Feldera ran away, but in retrospect, he never did want to go to the continent of demons. He made excuses like it was too cold there or something, and I always thought it was strange since cold didn't affect him. Hey guy, are you perhaps living in the cold northern continent? Yeah, it's a frigid place known as the continent of eternal ice. Why? Because I don't suppress my magic there. That unbearably cold place has now become an environment completely hostile to life. I see. I'm convinced now. I'm positive that Feldera can't handle his sister Veltsard. He happened to notice Veltsard through the surveillance magic, and made a straight line for elsewhere. It was not like him, but I had a friend once who felt similarly about his own big sister. She's too evil. My friend had complained. Even a true dragon like Feldera must have the same feelings. By the way, some others also boasted misfortune with their younger sisters, but I, who only had an elder brother, honestly couldn't relate. Both sides had their share of troubles, was my impression. Veltsard-san, could it be that Feldera isn't that fond of you? I casually asked. Oh my? I have been taking care of him so well since he started rampaging as a baby. I even held him down, and stopped him whenever he was being rowdy. He was useless and couldn't even maintain humanoid form, and I even took the trouble of punishing him after too many of his little disasters. Veltsard recounted episodes from the past, describing the kind things she had done for him. The reason became clear now. Judging from the story, against Feldera's action-oriented powers, Veltsard's binding-oriented powers were extremely effective. In other words, natural enemies. Yeah, I had to agree to his wanting to run away, even if she wouldn't do anything. That ever-confident and fearless Feldera having a weakness, or rather, sister. Not exactly blood-related though, like that was unexpected. Afterwards, we spent the time listening to Veltsard's stories, and chatting with Guy. Ramaris happily ate cake, and got along well with Veltsard. Veltsard also became fond of the cake. When the topic of teaching the baking techniques to the maids came up. Goodness. Guy can occasionally do good things too, I see. Thank you very much for undertaking our maid's education. She requested cheerfully. Now, there was no way I could refuse. If I did, I could end up awakening something even more fearsome than Guy. Listening to Ramaris bragging to Guy, and correcting her exaggerations, I spent the time quite peacefully. After a decent amount of conversation, I took the time to ascend Hillary and Misery before forgetting. Since I had claimed that only Gluttony King Belzebuth could do it, the fact that I took quite a bit more souls than required will be my little secret. Following Raphael Sensei's footsteps, I decided to be a bit bold myself. Giving each of them 90,000 souls at a steady pace soon resulted in evolution. It was exactly as Wisdom Lord Raphael had said. And with that, I had another 520,000 souls remaining. I could now reward the ones who I couldn't evolve in the ceremony. I was worried what would happen when Guy came over, but the event concluded well with us on friendly terms. Hope I wasn't a bother. Now these two can be of a little use too. Well, you can call me if anything happens. I'll help you out a bit, alright? Yeah, thanks. You can call me on UN too. I'll do what I can. We said our goodbyes with promises of cooperation. Or rather, the gate was connected and traveling to and fro took 0 time. Just to confirm, I had a quick visit and came back. Now, it became possible to teleport to Guy's domain. This skill was only possible for places already visited. A steady effort like this was necessary in hopes of making our plans to travel the world come into fruition. Teleportation was not possible for those not strong enough. But someday, I hoped to set up transit gates to move important facilities. And so, we saw Guy and his bunch off. It's an unnecessary detail, but Guy ended up eating 5 pieces of cake. At this rate, I felt like he was going to visit again very soon. Next time, I could prepare sweets, I thought amusingly. Now then, after Guy left, I went to see the 3 demon dukes. They looked like dried husks of their former selves. Our sincerest apologies. All 3 of them bowed profusely, and their injuries seemed to be fine. I was relieved. I wanted to grant them the souls to evolve immediately. Gerudo and Adalman had refused the offer, and I was to wait for the next opportunity in their case. I wouldn't want to force a reward on them, if they didn't think they deserved it. On that note, the 3 demon dukes already showed very promising results. I was making them wait for my own convenience, so now was a good time. And it was better that I personally saw to their growth. With that, their evolutions resulted in them becoming Devil Lords. The same result as Misery and Hillary. It's a bit troubling, but they had attained the highest rank in the demon aristocratic classes. Their status as Lord proved their newfound strength. Anyway, the 3 of them successfully ascended to the highest rank of elites. They understood that overlapping the effects of skills and magic could break through multi-layered barriers. These 3 girls had picked a fight with the strongest known as Guy, and had fortunately survived. This birthed a desire to at least act as a shield for their Rimuru-sama the next time they faced Guy. Diablo's education may have made them gradually stronger, but their defeat in the recent events had led them to aspire for even greater heights of strength. Fighting strong opponents sparked passion in not only a human's, but even a demon's soul. The effects of their evolution propagated to the archdemons, and evolved them to demon dukes. As for their level of nobility: Duke class, Moss. Marquis grade, Veyron. Earl class, Venom. Viscount class, Ajura and Esprit. Baron class, Cheyenne and Zonda. Well, these may seem like complicated titles, but it's just to show the difference in the classes of demon dukes. Among the rest of the 600 demons, some became archdemons which were on par with Knight class, but the rest remained greater demons. They weren't named, so too much of a power-up was not expected. But as their bodies were that of culture capsule automatons, their strength increased much more than normal. They'll probably prove useful one of these days. At present, they were doing miscellaneous work like security or labor, but since they could teleport, I could have them go collect information from various parts of the world. Anyway, all of them safely attained greater strength. Tomorrow, the Imperial airships would cross Rumina's domain. I had already planned to go support her if need be. Demons may actually have a good affinity for evolution, since all of them easily completed their harvest festivals. The link with the culture capsules were also improved, and from tomorrow, demons stronger than greater demons would be born. The souls I received, stole, from Guy promoted my forces to much greater heights, so looking at the results only, it was a truly beneficial encounter. I told the 3 girls to rest up, and after confirming that they were doing so, I went back to the control room. The Imperial Aerial Fighter Legion was on schedule, arriving tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. And as I was thinking about contacting Ruminas about Feldera, the scene was displayed clearly in one of the surveillance screens. A Feldera flying at ultra-high speeds on a crash course with the Imperial fleet. It was an overhead image from a high altitude, so I could easily make out his route. At this rate, he would cause war to break out in less than an hour. Seriously, what is he even doing? That Feldera! My lone words echoed in the control room. Feldera was soaring in the open skies at speeds tens of times higher than that of sound. He was having a lot of fun after returning from the cramped humanoid form to his original dragon form after so long. Though, his present feelings aside, the reason he needed to become like this was not fun at all. He had run away from his elder sister. His sister, Veltsard, could be called his single natural enemy. Ability-wise, their matchup was quite bad for him. Furthermore, she was born before him, and overpowered him in power, energy, and everything else. In an honest fight, he wasn't confident he could win. It happened many times after Feldera came into the world. He challenged her, but was beaten instead every time. Veltsard's eternal world was an impregnable defense that also served to seal all of Feldera's movements. Storm, destruction, corrosion, doom. All of them were nullified against her absolute bind. At present, he may have had a chance at beating her, but it was still too soon. After all, only after learning to restrain his power did he realize that his big sister Veltsard was always able to do it perfectly. The nature of her power, she claimed, was specialized in cessation of all energy for activity, but she likely possessed an unmatched strength to complement that. Feldera was cautious because he knew that his sister was not to some small fry. Kahahaha. Our battle yet awaits. Leaving behind large distances and cool lines, he continued his high-speed flight. His imminent clash with the Imperials, whether it was fate or coincidence, was unclear. But as if playing a tasteless joke, fate had it that one of those airships was carrying the scorched dragon Velgrund. After thousands of years, a fierce battle would result from the encounter of these two true dragons. Translators Rant. Hi there Gao. Lion Mask reporting. This is more a slice of life chapter than anything. Like action? Well, too bad. Though the fun times are soon to end. This arc is looking a bit better than last one where the enemy was just massacred. Well, I hope you enjoy. Some people have been asking what I'll do after this arc is over. Well, the simple and short answer is, no idea. I don't think ahead too much. So until further notice, Lion Mask RPT should be considered dead. Well, I do plan on posting DRS as I read further on, so probably not really inactive. I'll be looking into other things to translate, but that topic concerns the unknown future, and isn't even a reliable statement. Well, there's one more chapter in the stock which could be up in soon, or not soon. Well, see you there Gao. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.